Yeah, so easy.
Oh my god, I have my own. Great.
Okay.
All right. Hi. Here to show you guys about advanced materials.
Yay!
Flashing lights and fireworks.
So yay, due to the fact that they have actually put names in the panels this year, we will tell you our names.
Yeah. I am Mordred of Mordred's Monsters.
And I am Monoyasha of Dream Using Creations. Yeah. Super awkward.
Yeah, I know, right? There's all these people looking at me.
I know, and really bright lights is inappropriate. So, yeah, basically we're going to try to go through this as many steps as we can, as quickly as we can, and we're going to try to leave at least a good 30 minutes or so at the end so we can have any questions, because there's going to be a lot of material flying around here, all to soak in at once.
Yeah.
So, the first of everything is, of course, safety. A lot of these materials are not things you're going to be able to normally buy in your old everyday stores, except for Smooth On, Reynolds Advanced Materials, and some places online. So it's very, very important, because you will fry brain cells if you are not safe with this stuff.
A lot of them.
Yes, or burns.
Chemical burns are not fun.
Yeah, maybe some stomach ulcerations, possibly.
Also cancer?
Yes.
Cancer is a big.
Cancer bad.
So, yeah. Most of these things that we use kind of give you cancer if you're not careful.
Yes, actually, a lot of them. It's very important to read that separate sheet you throw away.
I don't have any of them.
Material data safety sheet.
Yes. I don't think I have any of those.
Right? They're gone.
They've been thrown away. Gee, I wonder why.
Yeah, well, you know,
We keep technical bulletins, but we've done it enough times. We know always to wear your respirator and gloves and goggles.
yes.
And this respirator is not enough for chemicals. This respirator is for particulates only. You need organic vapor canisters if you're going to work with chemicals. Super important.
Which, when attached, looks like this. And it's also very important because this is constantly actually filtering out the air, whether you're wearing it or not. So you want to make sure you seal it back in the bag. It's usually only good for about 3 days full work. So you have to constantly keep switching these out. That's why we put dates on cartridges, because you do not want to breathe in the actual vapors. So you're sitting there actually mixing up the plastic. It's usually a 2-part chemical. You'll see these little wavy coming off of it. Yeah.
That's the cancer going into your lungs.
That's the bad.
Also things like mold releases and contact cement and E6000 also fry all your brain.
E6000, plumbing goop, anything with a really strong sweet smell that usually smells good. I'm sure Sharpies are a little bit associated with that.
Yeah.
We are super,
Yeah.
not used to this. But getting into safety, it's also like, if you're going to use this chemical stuff, wear clothes you're not really going to care about. Usually crappy, yucky clothes that get torn, but don't wear ones with open knees. Don't wear shorts. Make sure your skin's all completely covered when you're doing this.
Closed-toe shoes.
Yes.
I've made that mistake.
And also, if you get anything on you, do not be afraid to rip your clothes off. But, yeah, we're trying to give you all the scary stuff first, and we'll tell you the good, okay?
Yeah.
You can run away.
Important. You guys need to be scared straight, because nobody scared me straight, and I learned everything the hard way.
Sam. That's why we are the way we are now, right?
Yeah, we're super great.
But yeah, full cover gear. Like she's got here like super heavy duty nitrile gloves, because I use regular nitrile gloves, but there's times where they'll rip through them, and especially if you're working with plastic, there's a higher chance of them ripping.
I like these for rotocasting. The regular 5 mil or 7 mil, whichever, they tend to rip a little bit easier. These 9 mil are a lot thicker and don't rip very much.
Yeah, I have no idea. It doesn't say. It probably says on the website.
I know.
It's not convenient.
Yeah.
Anyways, it's probably 3 mil. It's probably like a lighter weight, like latex gloves are.
Yeah. I use them for anything that's like the simple mixing where you're just mixing in a cup and pouring it in. If it's just going to keep it off your hands, you can use the thinner ones. But if you're actually using something that might tear the gloves, the thick ones are a lot nicer. Chemical burns really suck.
Yeah, they're not what you think, like it's a hot glue burn. It's actually a really bad heat rash. It clogs your pores and causes your skin to have a really bad reaction. Not something that you can solve with cortisone. You just gotta wait for your body just to leak it out, essentially.
And the more you do that, the more chance you have to get an allergic reaction to it, to where you can't even smell for 1 second the scent without breaking out into that. And that ruins careers.
But yeah, that wearing, she's got here, protective goggles, because you don't want the stuff to splash into your eyes. I have not had that happen yet, but...
Oh, yeah, I know. Super careful, right?
Also, I actually forgot to bring them with me, but like I said, the plastics are really sharp, so usually if you get that really thick rubber coating of gloves that you'll see in like Home Depot or Lowe's, just keep it from like slicing your fingers open. Also aprons. You can use aprons.
I didn't bring my apron.
I didn't either, but you can talk about them.
Yeah.
Yeah. So wearing aprons, full body aprons, go all the way down to your knees and stuff, because we were like roto casting, we're usually almost going over your lap, but usually we like straddling trash cans. We're casting a trash can.
Or over a piece of cardboard.
That works too, but they might splash.
Yeah, but I don't spill very often.
Well, I have employees and they're not
Fair.
as...
Very fair.
Yeah.
Very fair.
I really try to teach them.
There's a big learning curve. There's a big learning curve present.
And sadly, you usually learn the hard way.
Yeah.
We're trying to teach you this stuff so you don't learn the hard way. You can skip over this.
Yeah.
Make it a lot better. But yeah, it's pretty much that. Dust particle anything you're sanding, dremeling. The plastic is really good actually. Wear just at least a particle respirator for that. Because, I mean, shoot, after doing that, even though it might not directly affect you, you'll start feeling your throat's really dry, you'll cough a lot. And
when your snot starts coming out black, you should have worn a respirator.
Wow.
Yeah, no, I learned the hard way. Yes, I did. I have made these mistakes. Please don't do what I say, not what I've done.
That's what I'm saying. They gotta have like artist war stories one day. It's like we just gotta like go over all the things that we did that was wrong.
Yeah.
And it's just great.
Nobody gave us these panels.
No. But there's so many new like technologies coming out nowadays. I mean, the past like 5 years alone, I mean, the internet, glorious. I mean, shoot, they're bringing out stuff from the movies that they never allowed, general public. Now you get access to this stuff. I mean, you get behind the scenes like access to online and really learn what the professionals are doing and implement that into your own costume work, which is amazing. Like, I idolize that. It's just like, but yeah, pretty much me with all the safety stuff. I mean, it's very, very basic. Try to cover head to toe as much as you can, and don't cheat. Like you're mixing in chemicals, like, oh, I won't spill this. As soon as you think that, it's going to splash up and get on your skin. But they also do have some really nice chemical wipes that you can get. It's actually, okay, remember, it's called Surface Solve. You can actually get it from Smooth On or Reynolds. They're both the same thing. It's Smells. But it's these really good wipes. They're actually specially designed for getting the oils out of your pores. So if you do happen to splash some of the stuff on you, you can easily use wipes and then just wash it with regular hand soap and stuff afterwards, and you shouldn't get a chemical reaction from that. But everybody's different. Some people get reactions, some people don't. I mean, if you already have like a high chance of getting allergies to things, I probably would actually recommend you don't use these chemicals. There are some chemicals that only I mix myself. I do not allow my employees to do because I have to be in an isolated room away from them. Like rubbers, crystal clear resins, a lot of the stuff that takes 16 to 24 hours to cure. I want to make sure I don't expose them to any possible hazards in the curing process. But once it's cured, it's perfectly fine.
Totally inert.
Huh?
Totally inert.
Yes. That's a big word.
But it's the proper word.
Okay.
It's technically correct. That's kind of correct.
Okay. You say so. We are done now threatening you with all the dangerous stuff. So we'll actually start doing some fun things like sculpting.
Ooh.
pretty much like a part one of a three-part of actually a molding process to get the final product. So the first thing you gotta do is actually, create your form. When you're getting into really small stuff, you can easily use clays, and if you don't plan to mold, there are clays that you can use that will cure either chemically or just by contact with air. I don't have all of them, but
Some of them.
Did you bring some of them too?
I tried some of them. I don't. But I don't use those ones.
Oh. But did you bring them?
I only brought the stuff I use because that's what I've got.
Well, there's stuff that I don't use in my pot anymore.
I left a lot of stuff in Seattle.
Okay. I'm going to first pass out they don't have to hear this part.
But it's great.
Are you trying to embarrass me? God, This one, this one. Those out.
That's as well.
It wouldn't be fun if I didn't pick on you.
You know what? I get picked by my partner all day long, even through dinner until she leaves, and then here you are taking her job. The first thing I've handed out there is really simple stuff that you can buy at your local hobby store, whether it be Michael's, Joann's, Hobby Lobby, very basic. These are all oven-baked clays. They're just different forms. You have the ultralight clay, which, just like it sounds, it actually will float with water. It's a type of sculpting clay, and you simply just mold what you want, bake it in the oven, and you can actually apply it directly onto your costume. And since it's so lightweight, it will not put too much, heaviness onto your, like if you want to do nodes, you want to do a John set. It does have limitations to it though. Due to its lightweight form, its actual, chemical makeup is a little more frail. So if you really try to take your nail pierce into it, you could. So I usually like to use it as a kind of foundation and build up on that with a harder clay, and then that way I don't have to worry about the weight as much. There's also Super Sculpt clay, again, same brand. But this one is designed to take the impact. It's just a flesh kind of color clay. A lot of people like using it for making dolls. And same thing, you just put it in the oven for 150 degrees for about 10 minutes, depending on the thickness of your final product. And the third one is, I think, also a sculpting clay. I think I used it once. But it's a kind of a elastic sculpting. I could actually see using it on the lips if you wanted to. But again, with the oven baking, you can actually use that to press onto your model of Sculpey and create a mold, and you can then use that to cast into. So it's a really nice, inexpensive way to start out with learning how to cast and going into, pressing things into items. Kind of a putty. Press a putty, it's done. Just get along in here. I know, I'm watching. Okay. Another type, this does not require baking.
Oh, Foxy's
Aww, no.
My best friend.
No, it's so great. Is the two-part clay called Epoxy Sculpt. Actually, taxidermists were the ones that were using this, and the freight fandom, cosplay fandom, everybody else is kind of like, ooh, that's really good material, let's use that. And apparently not car makers, because I had to get asked in the airport what this was in my bag, and they thought it was blasting jelly.
Oh my.
And I explained what it was, it's like, can I use it on my car? I'm like, yeah. It's like, oh, that's awesome. Can I take it? No. Yeah. Got in my tried to take my sewing machine through the airline. That didn't work either.
Oh wow.
I needed it. Yeah. Your pads are rubbers.
Here you go.
Okay. But there's two more clays being passed around. The two-part epoxy clay, very, very simple. Just take literally one little ball of one side, the A part, and one little ball of the B part, and you mix them together until they have a cohesive color. You have about, how long you have about?
It's like half an hour before it starts.
Maybe half an hour to 45 minutes or so.
Yeah, it starts getting cracky when you start going half.
Well, that's bad like that.
Yeah, it's super bad.
So you basically, I would say, have a nice smooth finish, about 10 minutes of working time, 15, and then it's about 30 minutes it really starts the chemical balance. So it starts actually kicking and warming up, and it will turn to a rock hard, solid material pretty much overnight.
I start touching it after about 4 hours.
4 hours.
You're not going to get fingerprints.
It's super sticky.
It's sticky when you start. The more it cures, the less sticky it becomes.
Water's your friend.
Water is your friend.
Yes. For smoothing as well as cleaning your fingers off from the actual mixing process. Don't leave it sitting anywhere. Like if you have extra, just throw it away. When I say rock hard,
I make texture tools with my extra. Basically, you just press it on whatever texture you want to try to emulate, and it doesn't waste it.
Really good idea.
I have a tutorial for how to do that online.
Well, I learned the hard way that this is super sticky. I left some on my table, and then the next day I tried to pull it off, and the laminate came off the table.
Yeah. You put epoxy sculpt on something, it's not coming off.
It's not coming off unless you chisel it off.
Yeah.
Or Dremel it off.
I used to put in my eyes and to take the eyes out. No, I do. Because it's supposed to be in there forever. I don't want to come back out.
For some reason I thought you meant your eyes, not your
eyes. To get them back out, I have to take a hammer and chisel, and it usually breaks the resin away before it breaks.
Yeah, so pretty much the whole section's gone.
It turns into rock. It's pretty legit.
Yeah, it will stay. I also handed out to you this other. Let's go with it. The second material that actually gets smooth on called freeform air, and it's kind of like you could say a cousin of the the Sculpting Ultralight, where again it's a two-part mixing putty like the epoxy sculpt is, but it's extremely lightweight. So back in the day, I actually used to use the old-fashioned plaster cast strips for my mother molds, and then I discovered this material, and I have not gone back. It's pretty instant, like I said, same thing, you mix the two parts together, again, it's sticky. It's a two-part material, so as soon as you start mixing it together, it's gloves, use gloves, lots of gloves. You use at least 2 gloves between the mixing process and the actual adding it to your form. But it's very solid, very durable, and it's extremely lightweight. I actually like using it for not only mother molds, but also for building my models to keep them lightweight so it's not falling over and killing people.
You can mix it 50% with epoxy sculpt to make the epoxy sculpt lighter and go farther.
This is what happens when 2 artists get together for a panel, but they don't really talk about work.
Yeah, we're just talking to each other, and you guys just get to hear us.
Yes. Have a comedy show.
Yeah, super great.
Yes. I feel like I'm doing all the talking, and you need to throw some materials out there.
Monster clay, since that was the next one you were picking up anyways.
Yes.
I like monster clay because it's sulfur-free. You can use dragon skin and other platinum pure silicones with it, and they don't react negatively and get unpleasantly sticky. And it holds detail really, really well. Monster clay is my favorite for holding detail. Jessica, I'm just going to help this if you get it. Yours is different color than mine. Mine's kind of old, and I haven't taken very good care of it. I'm not nice to my clay. It doesn't stick to your hands. All the rest of the plasticine, oil-based or wax-based clays like to make your hands messy that I've used. And this one is super clean. It comes off a mannequin clean.
It's almost like wax, like wax clay mix.
I think that one's a wax-based and the other one's a oil-based.
And you can melt it. Mm-hmm. So you want like a super slick surface, or if you put a lot of detail into it.
For a super slick surface, you can either clean it the outside with alcohol, or you can hit it with a butane torch. And that especially if you freeze it first and then hit it with the butane torch, because the inside of it's so full, you just melt the outside surface, and then it re-solidifies really quickly because the inside's still full, and it gets a mirror shine.
You can do the same thing with it.
Huh?
You can?
It can. It's my communicator.
Okay. But yeah, same basic thing.
Yeah.
Except don't put heat on too long because it does start to bubble up like pudding.
Yeah. I want to play with this one. I don't use
Do
that
you
one.
want first dibs playing with it?
I've kind of got
Squishy?
Yeah.
That's a soft one. It's like that to tell people about silicone, don't squish the feet because they are not soft. They will break your finger.
Sweet Jesus, these are super cool.
Yeah.
I think I'm gonna get some of these from one round. Okay.
Super distracting. Yay!
Yeah, super great.
Another clay that actually works really nice that help keep your fingers clean was this oil-based clay, Sculpting, that I actually use from Silicone. I have tried different plasticine clays from the craft stores, and they dry out, even though they say they don't. I mean, I've heard people say they can add oil to it, but what's the point of paying for a product that you have to keep adding stuff to it? And it cracks and it's disgusting. But with this stuff, I've been using this for at least 4 years now, and I've been reusing the same 10 pounds of clay. Yeah, for that amount of time. And I don't have to worry about it cracking, getting disgusting. I mean, other than, leftovers from others that we put it on. Just clean that out.
Yeah.
But you can also do the same thing. You can heat this up and melt it. You can freeze it and make it harder. So your model, if you need to have more stiff, then you can solidify it. And if you need a smooth surface, you can take some heat to it. Or if you need to put impressions in it, blasting with some heat will really help. But it comes in a soft, a medium, and a hard. So if you're wanting to do a very large sculpture, you can go soft. Granted, it has an armature in it. There are limitations. If you're doing head, you can do it soft. If you're doing something like, I don't know, crazy torso or something, I would recommend you having some kind of base to build on. Otherwise, you're probably will collapse a little bit under its own weight.
Or like an entire beach grade padding set.
I thought about doing that. You should actually do that.
Yeah, more dudes about that.
Okay. I was thinking about that like 2 months ago. I was like, how cool would that be? But it has a lot of clay, that's big bowls.
I have 40 pounds of jelly bean. That thing was heavy. That was scary, but it was perfect.
But the medium clay, I like using that for doing my jaw sets, doing large items like hooves and horns.
Anything that needs to be solid and have a smooth texture.
Yeah. And then hard on, of course, really big antler sets and stuff like that. Stuff that's a lot of detail in it, and you do not want it to move.
Yeah. In much the same way, Chavant NSP makes a similar plastilene clay. I like to use the Chavant NSP hard for anything like claws that I need to get a lot of detail into, but still have really smooth. These are actually Kieran's claws. This is actually the one that I molded for you, and it's still hanging around after 2 years and after a 2,500 mile move.
How many years?
2? It's just been hanging out in the drawer.
Around the clock and around the 5 years.
There's the Chavant. It's super hard. It's super great. That stuff, you have to heat it up to use it, or else it pretty much feels like a rock.
You'll break your fingers.
Yeah, I can't even move it otherwise.
Yep.
I pulled my nails away from my nail bed trying to move that when it gets too hard.
I hate that. That's just as bad as a needle going for nail. Guess what? We just got done on doing all the clay stuff.
I got one more clay.
Oh, one more clay.
The clay that's probably the easiest to find if you're doing goggles. If you're doing molding stuff is Jolly King clay. They have that a lot more places. They have it at Big Flick. I
think that's what I actually tried using first. Something.
It's claimed to be sold for free. It's fine with tin pure silicones and with my Ugu, my silicone cloth base mix. But you can't use it with dragon skin or anything platinum pure because it has a trace amount in it. It's very soft. It makes it very easy to sculpt. I like to use it for bases and for anything that's large. But it's really squishy and it's really easy to move, and if it gets warm, it will sag. But it's cheap and it's readily available, and it's usable if you need to make things that aren't entirely huge. I'm not going to throw this one at you because it's going to break into pieces.
Or knock somebody out.
Oh, I don't want to knock him out. He's too cute.
Did you call that Jolly King?
Jolly King, yeah. Okay, now I'm done.
Okay. We work on a mold and
Yeah. Woo! Look at all the things.
yes. Okay. Pretty much have soft versus hard molds.
Yeah.
Molds, brush on molds. I'm not sure if you just want to start. I only have a couple things.
I brought a few things. I didn't bring any of my bigger molds. I just brought the ultra foul ones. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I brought one.
Yeah. That'll be
It's
enough.
different than what you have, so that's good, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
You got this.
Okay. What do you do first? You want to do hard molds or soft molds?
Let's just give them So when I learned molding, the rule of thumb that was given to me is if you're casting something that's hard, like resin, to use a soft mold. And if you're casting something that's soft, like silicone, to use a hard mold. As long as you use proper mold release, look at your chemicals and what they say to use as a mold release. You can cast soft things into soft molds. I get Kieran's mold. Oh my God, I did bring stuff. Kieran's nose. Come here. Kieran's nose was one of the first things I did this with. It's dragon skin cast into dragon skin. Those things should bond to each other, but if you use the proper mold release, they don't. And you get a lot finer of a texture that I guess I could pass your head around. Do you want me to pass your head around? Here, pass his head around.
Or I guess I should say it will bond to itself without mold release.
Yeah. If you don't use mold release, you're gonna have a bad time.
Yes.
Oh my God, that was my last week.
Let's just put it this way: the biggest no hard and hard molds.
Yeah.
That won't work. That mold's gone. So if you pour plastic into her ultra cow mold, that mold's dead.
There's no,
it'll bond.
Yeah. There's basically no way to remove the piece if there's any level of undercuts. So.
But yeah, I mean, we do that actually all the time too. We actually use soft molds for our tongues because of the shape it is, and instead of doing a two-part mold, we just do a single mold. So we use the platinum cure, right? I believe it's I have one of the sheets out there. Mold Star. Yeah. Mold Star 15 and 16. One's a fast cure, one's a slow cure. Depending if it's got a lot of detail, we tend to use a slow cure. Takes about 6 hours or so to cure. And then the fast cure takes about an hour. So the fact that it takes less time, then it's a higher chance of possibly getting bubbles and undercuts and stuff. But we like using that for the tongues because the tongues have such an awkward shape, you have to actually like pry it open. Or if we try to do a hard mold, we have to do it like a two-part. So we have to make sure that once we pull the model out, which is originally plastic or clay, that we well spray that mold, and then we usually take, our fingers, there it is again. Oh, it's bad as a stink bug. So we just take our, gloved hands, we'll just like spread the mold release inside the mold, just make sure we get all those curves because I cannot tell you how many molds we did not make sure and they were dead because the dragon skin completely bonded to dragon skin. Then they became chunks of silicone to make other molds with.
Yeah. Cry.
Yes, much cry, tears.
Especially when it's a really good mold.
Yes, and you spend a lot of time on it, and your model was killed. Okay. But most of these types we're going over right now are pour molds. So, of course, you need to actually build a wall around your model. I'm not sure.
I use duct tape. I use duct tape. I lay it on both sides so that it's a flat surface of duct tape on the other side, sticky side down to another surface, and then I just duct tape it to the table, and that's what I tend to use. You can also use Legos. A lot of people use Legos. I don't have enough Legos to do it, so.
I don't have any Legos.
I miss my Legos.
I miss my box of Legos too.
Oh my God.
Why did I give those away?
Oh.
But, everybody's got their own different ways and methods of doing things. There's a ton of tutorials out there on mold making, let alone on, Smooth Reynolds' website, but also on other artists' websites, especially LiveJournal. I don't know if you looked up Fursuit LiveJournal.
I read every single entry that existed in there before I made my first Fursuit.
Yeah, same. I think I still have an account on there, but I haven't been on it 3 years.
Yeah, I think, about that.
It's been a while. But, she uses duct tape. I use aluminum foil. I just put down a piece of aluminum foil just to make sure I don't bond it to my surface. And then I use foamies or double thick cardboard to actually build my mold walls. And I just hot glue it up on the sides and hot glue the edges. Make sure the bottom edge is hot glued really well. Especially when you have like a gallon of silicone going into your mold. The larger you get into your pour mold, the more you're going to want to reinforce your sides. Either by literally taking like a stick and gluing it to the top sides of your mold to keep it from bowing outwards, or just to help use some extra thick material. You can even use different kinds of plastic, like acrylic plastics. Technically, I guess you can use boards and woods too.
Yeah. What I do with bigger molds like that is I actually just take another strip of duct tape and reinforce it that way. Don't judge me. Duct tape fixes everything.
Gorilla tape fixes everything. I can't trust duct tape.
I use some pretty legit duct tape.
Okay. But yeah, that's basically it for pour molds. I mean, granted, you will have your, two-part molds.
Yeah, those are super fun.
Those are tricky as crap. You hate those things. But essentially, a two-part mold is when you have an item that you cannot pull out of the mold without tearing it, whether it be the model or the original shape, like round things. You can use something completely circular. It's you're either going to cut into that mold and create a X shape and pull it out, or you're going to create a two-part mold where it'll intersect in the middle. Like usually when you look at like stress balls or bouncy balls and stuff, you'll see like a little line around the midsection. That's because it was actually created in a two-part mold, poured in through the top or bottom of the item. In order to create molds like that, you actually have to take your model and embed it halfway into a pile of clay, and then create your actual mold wall around that. So you're pouring essentially your bottom first, and then once that silicone is actually cured, you flip it over and remove that clay while keeping your walls intact. And then mold release, lots of mold release, and make sure you wipe it down too, because sometimes the spray doesn't get on everything. And then pour your second layer, and in turn you create a two-piece mold that you can take apart and easily get your item out with minimal seam lines. And yeah, have it beautiful, pristine.
I've done two-part molds for tongues in the past by actually cutting the tongue in half or sculpting in two pieces. I'm crazy, don't judge me. And putting wax paper in between and pouring the top part first and then flipping it over and pouring on the other side. That's how I used to do my tongues back in the day.
You don't do that anymore, do you?
No, that was a while ago, but it's if you're basically going to do it one time, it's way easier than because then you could also, I was doing it in UltraCal, so
yeah.
Like most of my molds I only use one or two times because everything's so custom. I do things a little different.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
yeah.
It's like a learning process for us too.
Yeah.
Like we're both getting feedback from each other as well as teaching you guys.
Learning all the things.
Yes.
Super great.
Yes. Okay. Oh, putty molds.
Putty molds.
Putty molds.
Oh.
Are you using putty?
The putty that I tend to use is actually, well, I guess it technically counts as a putty. Oh my god. So, my favorite molding, my favorite. I learned about something on Instructables like 4 years ago, and I think I was the first one to use it for fursuit applications. You can mix silicone caulking. You have to get the one that smells like vinegar when you open it. It's got acetic acid, it's a moisture cure. You mix cornstarch into it. The cornstarch absorbs moisture from the atmosphere, and by mixing the cornstarch into the silicone, it introduces that moisture evenly throughout the mix, so the entire thing cures without the middle of it being still soft. And it basically creates a toothpaste-like putty. That's what I use for my glove molds, for my bases still. Just because it's so cheap. I can make a base mold for $10. So there's one thing, I can make a lot of custom sculpts and casks that way. And it cures in like 15 minutes. So you gotta work really fast. I tend to only mix a couple ounces at a time. But it's a cheap way to make a one-off mold or something we're only gonna use a couple times. That's the silicones that we use for and it's a super cheap way to do something if you're just making something for yourself and aren't going to make a whole bunch of them. I wish I was kidding still.
Were there like search terms to find that Instructables?
I actually have tutorials for that on my website and on YouTube. So it's I call it Ugu. But yeah, Mike has my business cards and I'll be happy to give you one. I know. I didn't bring them either. I'd be screwed if he didn't bring them, so.
I give them all away.
Oh, crap. Well,
We can get a couple.
I will make sure that you wind up with one of the you. Good to go.
I think I handed that sheet without realizing it. Yep, I did.
It's gone.
Yeah, it is. My putty sheet. But yeah, we're getting the putty stuff. There's a couple different ones that you can get. Like I said, the sculpting putty. Sculpting putty mold maker. One of them is very similar, or essentially you kind of press it over an item, especially if you're doing like a one-time thing or doing like a couple runs. It's a really like cheap and inexpensive way to just kind of start out. And it works actually rather good. You get that, clay really warmed up, it'll capture all your detail. And then you can easily just, if you do, I guess, you can press something else in it, you can pour plaster in it, or you can do plastic casting into the mold and just pop it out. So it's like, that's one of them. The other ones, of course, you can't get in regular stores, being Equinox, which is a 2-part platinum silicone putty. And I'm trying to think what it, not being, nasty, what it reminds me of as far as material. The only thing I can think of is silly putty back when you were a kid. It's kind of like taking 2 parts of silly putty and putting them together, mix them up, and you can press it. Granted, they have a slow and fast version, so it's very important to make sure you get a slower version when you start because it kicks really quick. Like I'm talking like less than a minute. You have to have this thing onto your model in order for it to not turn into a rubber slab of nothing. I used to actually use it for doing the mother molds for some of my smaller size horns because it's easy to remove from my glove mold, to say. Again, you can also use this to kind of press into items, being that it's just like silicone, and it will solidify and easily just pop it back out. My sheet's actually going around here somewhere, a little information about the product itself. Most of the silicones, you don't have to worry too much about having chemical reactions. I don't think, does anyone really have silicone reactions?
Silicone's really inert. I've known some people who have had problems with it, but it's never been anything for me. Nothing bothered me. I'm allergic to everything under the sun.
Okay, we'll use it as a test. Anything.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a super easy material to work with, and the only thing is it's a bit oily. So, like if you're trying to think the equivalent of something you'd be greasy with, other than touching bacon. But you mix it together, you get some oil on your skin. You'll see your skin has a gloss to it, so just make sure you wash your hands after before you eat or something. And that's really the only putty mold I have. Putty material. Yeah, that's only putty stuff. Yeah, I can use this for that. Okay. We start getting really advanced molds. Do you want to go first with that brush on molds, or?
I pretty much use the.
I think it's purposely not coming within like this barrier of our arm length.
It's just staying in the peripheral, so you get really distracted instead of focusing.
Yes. Okay. Anyways,
I use the Ugo for most of my molds. What you can do if you're doing a brush-on mold, a lot of the chemicals she's going to talk about, basically, that I use very sparingly for this because I'm a cheapskate. You can lay on a layer of, I prefer to use Dragon Skin 20. Just a thin layer to capture the detail, and then lay the Ugo on top of it, and the Ugo will bond to it. So it basically makes it so that you can make your molds a lot cheaper, but still have the same level of detail as if you had made a really big and nice mold with the expensive stuff. Yeah. Kill it with fire.
see, that's good. Yeah, she has to go for essentially something that's going to be, most cost. Shield?
Yes.
Dead?
Yes, he's dead.
Love
Okay.
you, Kieran.
Good kitty. Good kitty. Did your job. You can stay. I have to really go for durability with a lot of stuff I have to make because it's mostly mass production. I have to try to use up as much of that mold as I can before it dies in order to save my company money. Because if I make something, I can only do two casts off and it costs me like, $50 to $100 in materials, then I didn't really make much money off of it.
Yeah.
I kind of lost money. So when a mold dies, it really I start giving the hairy eyebrows. If something happens to a mold and it was not supposed to happen. So I mean, a lot of the stuff I go over to, I really do rely on Smooth On to help me out with a lot of the product choosing / testing and goods and bads essentially. But, I mean, I've tried doing Dragon Skin, I've tried Rebound, there's so many, there's Tin Cure, and there's Platinum Cure silicones, one of the biggest, like, gold silicone you gotta learn with doing silicones is don't mix tin and platinum. They are two completely different chemical-based silicones, and they will not react well.
They don't play nice together.
No. It's kind of the same with the sulfur in the clay and silicone in general. Like, the sulfur will cause the silicone to not cure properly, get really sticky, slimy. The same thing happens with two silicones. So I really don't know why. I didn't do research into it, but there's definitely something there.
Ugu's special in that regard. Ugu's not like anything else I've ever worked with. It behaves really differently. So you can't treat that like it's a different kind of silicone. It's one of the only ones that I found that cures to itself in such a good way, and also cures to anything else that's already cast or mold, any other mold. I use it to also repair molds. Like if it tears, I just lay some money outside of it and it kind of patches it. It's super good.
It's so toxic. Because the only thing that,
The name of the one you were just talking about?
Ugu. OOGOO.
Thank you.
No problem.
that's also smooth on, right?
No, that's Ugu. Ugu is the silicone caulking and cornstarch mix. It's actually the same as a rip-off. It is. It is. Well, it's a joke off of Subaru. Is what it's trying to copy. It's another silicone putty that you can mix, and they call it that because Ugu is also something they used to call when you used to add water to cornstarch, and it made that like it's not really a liquid, but it's not really a solid. And
Non-Newtonian fluid rate.
yeah, yes, thank you. Non-Newtonian fluid. Thank you for that. That's what they're making fun of with that name.
Oh, okay.
So
I'm like, I can't remember, is that in the same place or not? I didn't know.
it's confusing. Umu is a smooth on tinted.
I hate that stuff.
It's garbage.
Don't use it. You didn't find that out. Don't use it. It worked too well.
Yeah, no serious though.
Don't use that stuff. That was one of my first test silicones that failed really bad.
Anything else is better than that.
It was so simple. So yeah, I tried using it. I tried every trick in the book, and I just wanted to make a moldable bullhorn, a straight bullhorn. That's all I wanted. And so I like brushed the stuff on, and as soon as I tried to remove it, just ripped apart. I did 5 layers of silicone. That was like hours of work, and then just rips right off the model.
I have to use black before. I was cry.
I even post-cured it in the oven. Didn't do the thing.
Yeah.
So, don't use it.
Anything else is better than that. Anything.
Yeah. I kind of wish I had a list of. Well, there are books out there somewhere. One of the Smooth On product books because I am doing fog brain right now.
It's kind of late. They gave us away time.
Yes.
Cry.
But yeah, there's a lot of different kinds of silicones out there. I wish I could remember off the top of my head all the different brush-ons that you could use, but they actually have ones that are especially used for like vacuum forming silicone brush-on molds. I can't remember off the top of my head. It's in the book out there somewhere. Would be very helpful. Yeah, look. I know there's like 5 of them out there.
You want it? You need it?
Yeah, I think so. Because fog brain, I know exactly where they are in the book. I just can't think of names.
I know where they are on the website.
It's before the website. Old school, man. Old school. This is old brush. Pores.
I didn't have a pen in Seattle. All I had was Pat Last.
I only move where those are valves. My selection is limited. They don't have it in there?
Do you know what's out in the book though?
I don't even use this book. There's different books. Don't give me that. Equinox already went over. Equal plus that's a poor mold. That's a poor mold. Really, I know this book must be really old. I know there's more than just Rebound. I mean, that's the one that we use. Rebound 25.
Also mold knocks. I think that one's 10 cure.
Rebound used 10 cure. Yes, we'll make it. Ah, that'll work. That's not gonna work. I'll just go with the stuff that I know. We'll just do that, okay? Like I said, there's a lot of tutorials and stuff like that online. I really like to use Rebound 25 and Rebound 40. Both are, 2-part equal silicone that we actually, we mix together. We use a vacuum form table. Vacuum chamber, yes. Vacuum caffeine. Vacuum chamber to actually pull out and degas all the bubbles from the actual molds themselves. You really won't see the bubbles in the molds, but when you cast an item into it, you'll see a very, very fine kind of almost like a powdered sugar effect on the surface of the mold. For some people, it's really easy to take some like 100 grit sandpaper, like foam block sandpaper, just sand it off. But we do a lot of like clear casting stuff, and we got to make sure that there's no bubbles on it. So you have to invest in the vacuum chamber with the pump. Chambers are relatively inexpensive, but the pumps are quite pricey. I think cheap ones you can maybe get like $50, $80 at Northern Tools. But usually the more industrial ones will range anywhere from $100 to $800 on the lower end.
Yeah, well, I think I got mine for $150 on Amazon.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yep. But I will pass these little pamphlets out. Thank you. Oh, it's dry. But
It's not that dry.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
This is right before, this is actually where it starts tearing out the small edges. I wasn't mad at me, right? You saw
No, I
red,
see
right?
it. Yes, I get it. I don't know if I can. I got it.
This is actually one of our more dry molds. I have it all nice and labeled for you, but you see it's kind of got different colors on it. When I actually learned some of my first tutorials on doing heads from Clockwork Creatures, because they put a really nice tutorial on DeviantArt.
Back in the day.
Back in the day, yeah. Who uses DeviantArt anymore? She put a really nice tutorial on showing how she actually does the molds for her heads. So she shows all about, like, she's got a clay model on her mannequin, and she builds a wall about an inch away from the head itself to keep the silicone from dripping down too much. It actually catches it. And the whole process, like from putting all the different layers of silicone. Usually you have to have at least 3 layers of silicone. I like to use 3 layers of silicone to make sure I've got a nice thick casting that I don't have to worry about ripping and tearing over time. But it really helps to do a silicone that's more soft on the first layer. Like she was saying, using the Dragon Skin 20M as the first layer. So it captures all that detail and also helps keep your, I guess mostly to help capture detail. Like I like using a soft because it's easier to remove it from the casting.
And if you are sculpting a nose or something onto your base, if there's undercuts that are in there and you fill that up with the softer silicone, it makes it so much easier to pull it out without tearing up your mold.
Yeah. The more resistance, the more likely that something will catch and tear off. So usually it really helps do a soft layer first. Usually the same kind of material. You do 2 different materials.
Yeah.
And then do a... Why do you keep saying that? I don't have to like, put a title on it or something.
Well, it's okay. No, I can make a mold for $10. Super great. I can toss them. I can make it and use one time. It's fun. But I usually do the thicker stuff on the outside. So I use 2 layers of Rebound 40, which is much stronger, much more tough. I mean, you see this thing's keeping its shape on its own without the mother mold. And but yeah, look at Clockwork Creatures tutorial. It's like the easiest thing, I think. I don't think it's up anymore.
Is it not?
I don't think it is.
Oh,
It wasn't the last time I looked. She pulled a bunch of her stuff down. I was sad. I was super sad.
I really haven't looked at other people doing tutorials on doing heads other than you.
Yeah. This was like a year ago that I looked. It might be back, but I was sad. Keys.
It's what it's keys. Yes, keys. So essentially, once you actually have your multiple layers, as you can see, this layer is really, really rough on the last one. I actually use a thickener with my last layer just to help give a nice, sturdy kind of silicone shell to itself.
Use Thyvex?
Thyvex, yes. Thyvex. Thyvex and silicone thinner. They're actually really, really good to have on hand. Brush on molds, Thyvex, especially if you have a lot of undercuts, because if you've got areas like inside the eyes, around the lip line, you want to make sure you really fill those in with silicone after your first layer, by the way. The more thick the silicone is, the harder it is to keep bubbles out. Because even if you try vacuum forming it, just from the fact that you're pulling out and trying to spread it on an item, you're going to get bubbles. So I like to have either air compressor or canned air on hand, just so I can kind of go in those undercut areas, make sure the little bubbles out, and then kind of seep down over itself. But having keys, this is another mistake that a lot of us make when we first get into making things we're going to rotocast. Learn the hard way that if you don't have keys and you're rotocasting, your silicone will fall right out of your mother mold into the trash, as well as all the plastic that went with it. So it's really important at least to have 2 keys, because you're going to have essentially a 2-part mold. It's going to split right down the middle here. That's a hard shell, whether it being plaster Paris strips, plaster in general.
I use Ultracal and burlap.
Ultracal, which is basically cheaper plaster strips, yeah.
It's basically, it's plaster that gets harder. It's plaster and Portland cement mixed with some special.
Ultracal, by the way, is way better than plaster Paris, by the way. It's much more solid. It's like industrial grade.
Yeah, it's
super smooth, clean concrete, essentially.
It's a little bit harder to find. You can get it online in small quantities from monster makers. Or you can, I used to get it in big 50-pound bags. Did you bring it?
No. Oops. I actually think I mistaken a big 50-pound bag of Ultracal for a big 50-pound bag of alginite.
Oops.
Yeah.
What are you going to do with that?
I was going to make an arm cast.
Okay. My double is awesome. Just saying.
I didn't know if I needed 1 or 2 boxes. Yeah. But yes, having that hard mother mold shell, you want to make sure that your silicone stays within that shell. But I'll pass this around, you can look at it, it's quite, even though this one's dried out, technically, as you can see, it's like a really, really light color. Silicone and plastic, they get along to a point. Every casting of plastic or stonework you do inside of silicone will dry out the actual silicone itself. And over time, your edges, anywhere it's highly detailed, will start to, like see right here in the nose, just rip, crack. I mean, it actually feels like it's starting to feel like plastic itself because of how dry these edges are. This lip line is gone. There is no cut line there anymore. This has got particles on it. I don't want that fleeing in my eyeballs. Time to. Oh, it's 10:30. Yeah. Okay. Pretty much went over a lot of everything from mold making, I think.
Yeah. I guess the other thing that wasn't really covered is the pouring of Ultracal mold. There's a hard.
Yeah. That's your section.
Yeah, that's my section.
Yeah.
That's why I'm doing it.
Okay.
So I like Ultracal because it's really hard and you can get a lot of castings out of it without losing a lot of detail. With plaster, each successive casting tends to pull off the surface layer of the plaster, and you lose a lot of detail when you make detailed stuff like I do. That is no bueno. So Ultracal is really great, but when you cast the silicone into it, because it's a porous material, the silicone likes to get down into all those micropores and get super stuck into there. Mold release is great, but because it's so porous, it doesn't really do enough to keep it out. You can use Murphy's oil soap to seal it. If you use 3 layers of, basically you put some in there and you wipe down with a cotton swab or a paper towel and then let it dry in between. Everything else evaporates, but the oil seals in and makes it so that it's much, much, much easier to pull out your final product. But You can get a lot of detail into an open cow mold. I guess I'll pass this around together and this will have a separate time, but this one actually came out of this. This is my silicone, my silicone caulking and cornstarch mixture that I use for my molds. And I also use it for paw pads and for noses.
Thank you.
It's actually a cow tongue. It's got two tones. It's got barbed texture because apparently cows have barbed tongues too. Google's my friend. The more you know. Yeah, no, seriously though.
I've never been licked by a cow, so I wouldn't
I
know.
haven't either, but I am really ridiculous with my realism.
So we're eating giant dairy cats.
Yeah.
That's the only other thing I can think to compare it to something that's got a textured tongue like that.
Hyenas do as well.
Oh. I haven't licked by a hyena either.
Hyenas are actually technically closer to cats than they are dogs. Yeah.
It's a mystery. What species is Anaki from Final Fantasy VII? Is that all the molds?
Yeah, that's pretty much it.
I mean, should we say what the mold release is that we use for molds?
Ease Release 200 is super great. I think this is the old version of the can.
That's really old.
A little goes a really long way. Yeah, I don't use all that much of it. I don't cast as much.
Yeah, you don't.
Yeah,
I don't have to cast as much as I do.
Yeah.
You make one-time things.
But Ease Release 200 is really great. What is the one that you use for foam? Because I know that it's not 200, right?
I use 200.
Oh.
There's supposed to be like this really crazy number. It's like more release 2A something.
But it doesn't matter?
It's supposed to, you're supposed to brush it in there. We use an airbrush, we just really brush it in, and it's supposed to create a kind of powder layer. But I found it causes way more corruption issues than it's worth, and I actually just do a really, really light coating of the mold is 200. A lot of my molds go in post curing before I cast foam anyway, so it kind of flashes off and dries.
Super good.
Yeah.
What's it molding?
Yay. No, casting.
Casting.
That's casting.
Yeah, but we just finished molding.
Finish molding.
Now you do casting.
It's like part 3 of.
Yes.
Well, that's one part, but it seems like 3. Yes. Casting. You're starting this time.
Okay. Plastic casts. My favorite thing in the world is the Smooth On 300 series. It's pretty much my go-to for
Pretty
everything.
universal.
Smooth On 300 is a white plastic, and if you don't need to have it pigmented, that's the easiest one to use. It's pretty simple. It's 1 part A and 1 part B, and you put it on your respirator because it's, I'll guess, is cyanide? Is it cyanide or arsenic? Doesn't matter.
Either way,
Doesn't matter.
what difference does it make?
It really doesn't, but yeah. Proper ventilation is important. You can cast it outside without a respirator if you've got good airflow, but if you're inside in a room, you need to vent your air space, and you need to use organic vapor cartridges and non-particulate cartridges, because these don't do anything to help you.
Other than keeping, dust out of your lungs.
Yeah. All my bases are done with 300. I use 325 for anything that needs to be pigmented. It takes a little bit longer to cure, but it allows you to put pretty much any kind of pigments. I should have brought your claws. That would have been a perfect example of 325. I fail at life.
That's like a one type that I do not bring.
No, well, it's like in the room, and I'm mad at myself.
You know what? I hope we're from sculpting.
Did you? What did you forget?
Everything. Like, we went over all the usable clays. Like, reusable clays, I didn't go over, like, the models and stuff.
Oh. Well, that's because I don't use those.
And filler material.
I don't use those.
I know.
I totally forgot.
Well, you didn't even know.
Yeah.
You couldn't forget. Okay.
Well, we talked about it more than once, so I did totally forget.
Okay. Just gonna do a little backtracking here, just a little bit. Yeah. So yeah, we pretty much went over a lot of our stuff we use all the time. Something I like to use for sculpting, large sculptures, isn't that cool? Have you ever played with that before?
No, I don't use it. I'm making touches.
And you get your own little chunks to play with?
No, I can play with this one.
Okay. But I had to actually hoard this from up north. This is 2-inch thick. It's called Owen's cornering foam. They actually use this to insulate your house, your houses, essentially with walls. I guess down here they usually use like more like paper fill mostly.
I know, right?
Busy.
I know we're busy.
Yeah. But this is one of my very favorite materials to carve out large projects. If I had to do essentially like my Velociraptor head I did a couple years ago, I needed to have a really big base to work on. I did not want, I don't know how many pounds of clay that would have been. But you know, it's a skull like, you know, this wide and about this, well, that long, this wide, this tall. So I want something that I can easily build up on. So this, you can easily carve it with, you know, box cutters, X-Acto knives. It sands down beautifully. Like most of this paw is actually made of Owen's cornering foam, and then I actually laid the freeform air on top of it to keep the weight down. And I was able to sand it and shape it and make it really nice and pretty.
It's shiny.
Well, that's the loss of,
I know, but it's still
matte spray. They can come out and mold easier. But this is pretty much, yeah, again, one of my favorite materials. It's very sturdy, very lightweight. You can glue it together with hot glue. You can use spray glues. You can actually use it to build a head, like, especially if you're doing a quad suit. You can build a quad suit head out of this and then really cover it with some like foamies or something, just to give it a protective layer, because it does, you can like, you know, pierce it and stuff. That's why it's usually used for an underlayer. But yeah, super cool. Pretty much it for that, I think. But yeah, this is kind of the same stuff they use, like kind of fill, actually it's very similar to almost doing some taxidermy-based fillers. Yes?
You said you had to hoard that stuff from the north?
Yes.
Is that like a regional thing? Do they not have the same?
No, the local Home Depot
Yes.
sell it.
They have it, it's just only an inch thick.
So yes, you can't get the 2-inch at the local Home Depot.
Yeah, it's hot down here, they don't want to insulate.
But you said it's easily like gluable together?
Very easily. Like, this is actually hot glue from me attaching it down, and it's still pretty well embedded on the bottom of this thing. Here, that's one.
Use hot glue.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
Don't touch me.
I guess there's a little bit of writing on it.
I left the E6000 in the room. I cried.
How about plumbing goop?
But liquid gold.
Well, what'd you do that for?
Because I was using it.
In the room?
Yeah, just a little.
Doesn't matter.
Wasn't anybody else in there?
It sits there.
But I have
24 hours.
super good.
Bad. What we go over again?
Well, it wasn't fixing my stuff. Anyway,
Doesn't matter.
you were talking about your other armature stuff that I don't use. So it's Sculpting.
That was it.
Okay, then that was what we were going back to.
Okay.
We were talking about casting.
Okay.
I was at level 325.
Okay, 325. I didn't bring any. Why did I bring anything from my table? Like, no silicone, no plastics except for 2 items. Okay.
Super good.
We didn't talk about armatures for like I got the hand model there, it's kind of waving to everybody.
Yeah.
And I didn't think of actually talking about that being an armature, or the mannequins that we have stuff on, which are 2 different kinds of mannequins that are actually displayed in our cupboard.
I make duct tape dummy armatures to sculpt on as well. Makes it a little bit more difficult, but like it allows me to cast things super, and sculpting is super custom too. We gotta go on with resin?
I guess we'll just skip over that, yeah.
Yeah, the deed is done.
Yes. New to you.
The other kind of resin that I like to use, so we've got the white one, which is, we've got the white one, which is the 300. The one on the inside of this is onyx. It cures a lot faster, but it makes a really nice black that you don't actually have to pigment. So it's super good for doing the inside of the bases. The reason the inside of the bases are black is so that when you see inside of the eyes or in the mouth, it doesn't shine white at you. It's kind of in shadow. Super great. So you hand him around.
It basically keeps light from reflecting back inside the mask into your eyes. And it also helps, deter people from like being like, oh man, the mouth is white. Doesn't show off all that stuff.
You can also just paint the inside of the glass if you have to.
Yeah.
But I like to use, I actually prefer to use the onyx for all of my bases at this point.
So the 325 and the onyx fuse together if they're cast together?
So does the 300.
They're all polyurethanes, so they're all pretty much from the same lines called just called Smooth Cast, isn't it?
It's the Smooth Cast 300 series because they've got a couple of other ones as well. But there is a time limit with which you can cast those together and have them actually adhere to each other without coming apart at the layers.
Smooth Cast series. It's quite extensive, actually.
Yeah, they've got a bunch of different kinds and different thicknesses and different cure ratios. Where the ones that we're using because they cure fast enough to actually be able to do rotational casting with them and to have the pigments not settle too much. You can get ones that cure faster or slower, but these are the ones that are optimal for doing things by hand.
Yeah. A big thing too is a lot of the Smooth Cast series is super easy to use because it's actually 1x1 parts by volume/weight.
Yeah.
So you can easily take a cup and literally put a line on it and match it with another cup, and that's your A part, B part. You don't have to worry about too many corruption issues of doing that.
Thermoplastics sells these really, really nice graduated mixing cups that actually have measurements by the milliliter. That's what I use for stuff because I am super precise.
I use drinking cup with lines on them. This line was good for this measurement, this line was good for that measurement. Everybody does everything different.
Yeah. There's not a right way to do any of this stuff. It's whatever works best for you and your build process, basically.
These are my plastic things. But yeah, I mean, as you're saying, like there's the 300, everything comes in different colors too. I actually use the 325 as my base bone color, being that it's easily colored as well as it already having a tinge to it to say it does look pretty much like bone. If you add, like I would say like just natural plain bone because there's like bleach bone, which is more white, and then there's dirty mud bone.
Yeah. The 325 is actually a translucent amber color, is what they call it. It's kind of the color of dirty rainwater, I would call it.
When it's in its uncured stage.
I also like to use just a small amount of white pigment into it to make it a slightly translucent color for the outside of claws. Basically the color that your fingernails are, so that the light can shine through it. That's what I use for my foot claws for the clear on the outside.
Oh, I thought that was a corruption issue.
No, it's designed to match their slightly translucent color.
But you know, if you add 2 parts A to 1 part B, white, it turns into oval.
No, I didn't. Now I'm going to play with
Clear oval.
Now I'm going to play with that. It's crazy fun.
Not when you're trying to do something and it comes out like that.
Oh, yeah, no. But it still sounds like a fun experiment.
The question?
Yes, sorry, so many questions. On the inside of that horn, there's like a foam material?
Yes, we'll actually be going over that right when we get done doing the plastics. That's actually rigid foam, expanding 2-part foam.
I'm done with the plastics.
I'm not. Let me think for a second. 7 or 8 different kinds of plastics I use in a week.
I guess the only other plastic that I use is the Easy Cast Clear, but I don't particularly like it, so I'm not going to talk about it because it's pretty garbage.
Yes, it is. It's garbage like that. That's the other stuff we don't like, the silicone.
Ooh.
Yeah. She's like, oh no.
Yeah, pretty much.
Hey.
Wow. I think the dance has started.
Yeah. Yes, it's a dance. Okay, we'll talk a little louder. Back into the convention dealer's room space. But yes.
Phone good. Carlos, that you just sent around. What's the material that's
That's the freeform air, the 2-part kind of lightweight putty that I handed around. I handed around a bag of that, a little kind of broken off piece of it I used for another mold. Just so you guys can feel like what it actually feels like before you get to a hardened stage. But yeah, same thing, like I said, that's really good for, when I use it for that, I can keep reusing that model for future castings.
Right.
Because the Owens corner film I originally used is actually covered that. So instead of me using this really expensive product to make the entirety of the foot, I use really cheap Owens corner film to just cover it. But like we're saying, that there's a huge line of Smoothcast 300 series. They've got the 300, which is white. They've got the 325, which is the bone, good coloring color. They've got the Onyx series, which actually comes black. And it almost has kind of like a rubbery kind of consistency to it. It's not a very brittle plastic. It's industrial. They have a series that's called 65D that's designed for rotocasting. It's much thicker resin, so it's more designed to not splash out your mold. It'll stick to the mold better and give you a thicker coating. But the only problem I have found with 65D is it will delaminate. So in other words, if you're pouring a layer in there and you're slushing it about, it goes from a clear and it cures to a white. Even if you're starting to pour that second layer in there, right after it cured white, you risk a chance of that first layer just completely separating from the second layer. And the sheet will just come off, and you'll have a very frail slush cast head. So I've actually been mad and not quite before it smooth out fully. And get a brand called Fibercast 50. I can't remember the name of the site that I get it from. I don't either. If you look at Fibercast 50 online, you will be led to a site that's another specialty resin website. I think that's what it's called. It's called Specialty Resins.
Okay.
Like, no kidding. No kidding. Specialty Resins. And I really like using that because it's nice and thick. It's got a I think because they have a whole bunch of different kinds of specifications of all these plastics. They've got the mixing ratios, the mix velocity, the pot life, the demold time, the shore hardness of each type. You've got plastics that are more frail, more brittle. You've got ones that are made for gears, and some of them that almost are rubber-like. You can bend them in half and they won't snap. So there's a lot of different kinds you can play with. Like the best thing to go to is a Smooth On store and just play with all their samples, because it is really have keychains. In fact, I have got keychains full of stuff. Where'd it go? There it is. I should have handed this around earlier. There we go. I want some of them super jams. They stopped by my shop and just handed these to me. I was like, oh, I love you.
I think it does it intercom too.
We're going to Ram on Monday. I'm so excited.
Should I warn them that you're coming? Sure.
Tell them to take good care of me.
I can do that.
Super.
Just ask for Pamela.
Oh, well.
Okay.
That too.
But if, like we're saying, like there's a bunch of resins like the 2325 that work with colors, they have a series of awesome things you can play with. They've got a series called Smooth On Stove Strong colors, which are heavily pigmented, and you can put like all rainbow colors, like a whole bunch of kind of rainbow colors. You can drop into your resin and create all different colors. Make, the old-fashioned Roy-G Viv wheel. You can mix the colors together to create custom colors like the aquas and teals, because they don't have those as the base colors. And we also have Ignite series, which is a whole bunch of UV reactive dyes. They're a little more tricky to work with because they do have a shelf life. The pigment actually tends to settle down in jars, so you gotta make sure you just mix it up really good before you start dipping it into your plastic. But it will cause anything that you add to the resin, being the Ignite, to be UV reactive. It will glow under black light, and yes, they are all neon colors. Pink and yellow are the brightest. They also have a lot of different fillers that you can get. For rotocasting, we actually don't just use plastic, but we use something that's called Urafil. They've also got a whole bunch of different types of that. I think it's like 10 different types of Urafils. You have to be really, really, really careful with which ones you pick, because there are ones that have such a fine dust to them and have silicone components to it that they will bond to your lungs. Again, you got to be really, really, really strict about warning people about these materials and making sure that they are wearing the specialized filter cartridges with the respirators with these materials. I do not use any of the highly dangerous ones. I actually use Urethil 15, which is called micro balloons. It's actually the exact same filler that they use to make their feather light smooth on plastic. It's a plastic just like the clay I handed around. It's so lightweight that it floats. So you can use this to not only strengthen your resin, we actually take a big spoonful in each layer of slush casting we do on head, and it helps not only thicken the resin so we can get nice, good coating on it, but also helps strengthen it and makes it lighter weight. We're also using less resin because of that. So it saves you a lot of money too. It comes in a big 1 gallon like little box. And literally just we keep it in a box and just scoop it out when we need it. I still use respirator with that because it's still a powder, but it's not dangerous. Like there's, I think 3 is the one that's the silicone stuff, and it literally is like powdered sugar. Like there's nothing you can do to help keep it contained, and if you try to, if that gets in your lungs, you'll start having troubles breathing, and I heard that it bonds and won't ever go away. So,
All of my notes.
oh, yes, this is why I do the testing, and I'll probably die at an early age. That's probably really horrible to say, I'm sorry. But they also have materials that are a little bit more difficult to use on because they actually have to be measured out in like 90%, was it 90 parts by 100 parts or 50 by 100, these different kinds of measurements, and that would be the Crystal Clear series. This is my replacement for Easy Cast. Yes, I had to do a lot of searching to find a really nice clear resin that would get that, if you buy those half orbs online, they're glass-like, they also have ones that are acrylic. Those things, you clank them together, they're hard, they're solid. Easy Cast resin works good for when you're starting out. It's very simple resin to work with. However, it does amber over time. It does react to the UV rays from lights and sunlight, and it will soften. Like you'll have a hard casting one day, and then next year you come back to it, so you'll bend it in half. With the Crystal Clear series, again, this is another one you got to really make sure that you have a separate room you're working into this over the actual Smooth Cast series. This one takes 16 to 24 hours to fully cure, and you really want to make sure if you don't want to have any bubbles that one, you've got the vacuum chamber. Again, this is completely clear glass type resin, and also post-cure your molds. So you take your silicone mold and you stick it in the oven for, the warm setting or 150 degrees for about 3 to 4 hours, so just nice and toasty. And by doing that, when you actually mix your resin together and you pour it in the mold, it actually helps heat up the resin more and tries to get it more liquidy, and allows all the bubbles that possibly got in your mixture to escape and give you a bubble-free casting, essentially. And not only do you have to post-cure the molds, but after the 16 hours, you have to take your items and stick them back in the oven for another 5 hours to really get the resin to essentially kick and make it rock hard. And then you won't have to worry about your clear castings being damaged. Other than, basic scratching. You take something really sharp, but it's still going to get, scratched. But it gives you a nice solid product for your eyes and horns, anything since you want to make really crystal clear. And you can still add dyes to it. If you had to get a really precise color, doing crystal clear, or I think there's 326. Yeah. It's also a clear, but with that one you won't be able to get it bubble free. Even if you vacuum form it. And it kicks, the 325 kicks really fast. Like it cures super fast, just like the 300 does. Like literally, if we had a table here set up with the 300 resin, we could pour it, and then 2 minutes later, it starts curing white. The 326 is the same way. It's a clear, but it will start curing too fast before you can possibly vacuum chamber it, so it will be bubbly.
Yeah. I think the spotlight's on that is something like 5 minutes.
It's really short.
Yeah.
In fact, I think it says 7 to 9 minutes. I don't believe that.
Yeah, no, it's been 5 in every.
Yeah. Because the 325 is 1.
Yeah, it says 2.5.
I'm getting my numbers mixed up. 325 is the fast curing clear, and 320 is the bone color.
Okay, yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Okay.
I got that figured out. I think that was all plastics, right?
I think so. Use more than I do.
Other than thermoform plastics, which have nothing to do with smooth on.
Yeah. I think those are, I think we use it more than those than the other.
Or are we doing this in one section?
Yeah.
No. Oh, yes it is. Okay. Never mind. Never mind. So, foams?
Pretty much the only cast foam that I've been using is the Flex Foam at 5. I like it because it's self-skinning, but it's a little bit denser than I'd like it to be, and I've been having a lot of trouble with it. I've also used your flexible urethane foam from Monster Makers. It's a little bit more reliable, but I found that one hard with age, so I can't recommend that anymore. Don't bother.
I can't believe you got 5 work.
5 is kind of a nightmare. Oh
Yes.
my God.
I hated it.
I told you, it's not just me. 5 was worth it once I got it to work. It kind of it's question mark, but it's the density that it has when it does cure is beautiful. Because the 3 is a little bit soft for me, but the failure rate on 5 is like, it makes it hard for me to justify comparing. Like, wow, this shit is really.
It only has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different kinds of flex foam.
There's a lot more.
Yeah, I need to update that.
There's a lot more. I haven't brought mine. I actually do have a new one. We had to run last week, so.
Yeah, I get it, like, throw it away. I gotta restock. But technically, I actually have to go for supply run on Monday.
Let's make this happen.
Shopping day. Anyways, I handed out a couple of samples there. She uses Flex Foam 5, and I actually have to use a couple different grades of Flex Foam. I like to use 3 for my heads because I like the fact that it's super soft. It's very similar to cushion foam that you usually buy at your craft store. So I like to use that for my head bases, and each one's got its own different kind of property to it. I think they have, this product count is not updated, but they have at least, I think, 8 or 10 different types of flex foams now.
Yeah. Just the urethane ones.
Yeah, they have a 3, a 4, a 5, maybe a 6. I think they have 8. And a 7. They have 7? I don't know.
I use 5, though. 5 is great.
They have a foam at 8. I got flex foam. Either way, they've got flex foams up to, I think, above 25 now. I think they got one that's even thicker than that.
25 was the last one I saw.
Essentially, the number scale for the flex foams are the lower the number, the softer the foam. The higher the number, the more dense it's going to be, the more heavy it's going to be. Yes?
They also have the pillow soft flex foam.
Yes, they got the pillow soft. That was too soft. And it felt weird. It almost felt like wet silicone weird. Yeah. You want to put, what was it, stoma foam? The expandable foam silicone. If you want to gore affected at Halloween haunt, get stoma foam. It's just disgusting.
We're going to be using it for some custom orthotics, like just padding or stuff. So.
Stoma foam?
Yeah.
Have you felt that stuff?
Yeah.
It's disgusting.
Yeah.
It's slimy.
It's going to have a liner. It's just.
It's slimy. It's like a wetsuit.
It's not going to be something that's going to be against the skin. Because it's soft and squishy. Well, if you're on stilts, you want something squishy.
Maybe.
Yeah. It'll be super good. Just trust me.
That's why I use it for tentacle or something for some cosmetic dreadlocks. But I tried to find expandable something to use for dreadlocks and it didn't work.
Yeah.
That whole process was just a fail. No, it's not doing Predator. But, yeah, we need to, what was I going with that? 3.
25 the weights.
Yeah. The foams I handed out was Flex Foam 3 for the heads. Flex Foam 10 we like to use because it has a It's still lightweight, but there's less chance of it ripping. The lighter the foam gets, also the more bubbles in it, so the higher chance of it ripping. So if you do, like, you have foam in high stress spots, you want to go for something that's a little bit stronger. So we like to use 3 for toes, because you can't just pull out a mold and just rip it in half. I mean, you still could if you were using Hulk moves on it, but it'll survive a lot better than the 3 would. We like using the 14 for possible tongues and noses because it almost has a rubber aspect to it. It's a little bit floppy, again, less tear, but still lightweight. It's going to be heavier than, of course, 10 or 3. And then for anything that needs to be extremely solid, like horns, finger caps, hooves, we like to use 25. And you see, that's like the heaviest one we have. That one's very, very sturdy. And all the foams I like to use are self-skinning, which means the layer that essentially seals all the, like if you're looking at cushion foam seal, it's kind of little bubbles in it. All these flex foams actually create a soft, smooth skin to it, so it will actually capture all the detail in your original model mold. So you don't have to worry about that ripping off. You have this horrible bare surface. Like if I was to kind of like scratch at that that flexible head on the actual stand there, you'll see all these kind of little bubbles. You flip it inside out, you'll see this texture on the inside. Like even the cutouts of the flex foam that I handed out, the part that expanded is almost smooth. But the part that I cut, you see all these little bubbles in it. I'm shaking.
I know.
It's not from the base. It gets kind of excited, nervous shake.
You're chihuahua.
Yes. I own 3. In Pomeranian. Well, technically I own 1, but there's 3 in the house. You have any other foams?
Rigid foams that are castable.
Yes.
For inside of homes and stuff, it's really nice. I think the one that I've been using is the black one. I like the black one. I like these.
I tried that, and it's kind of like, you try all the ones that are ADD with me. Like, they'll work, but then they won't work. And they'll be like gooey and stuff. Maybe because you live in the desert, you don't have humidity to worry about.
Well, I was using them in Seattle, so.
That's humid.
Yeah. I had everything controlled, humidity and temperature-wise, though. The resins are, this is something that we missed. The resins are reacting to temperature and humidity. If there's more than 50%.
Heat and cold, too.
Yeah. They cure faster when it's hot, and they cure slower when it's cold or not at all. And basically, anytime that I've had humidity higher than 50%, I get really nasty bubbling issues because the resin is.
Especially flex foam.
Yeah. Any of the urethane products are hydrophilic, and they will pull moisture right out of the atmosphere. And then as the material cures, it boils that, and the boiling water vapor creates the bubbles. And no bueno.
I've never actually had product freeze on me before, so I really don't know exactly what it does, but I know it's bad.
I haven't had it freeze either.
Yeah. It's pretty much every single time you get a box from Smooth On, they'll have this like little card that comes on top, and it has a person shivering, essentially saying, do not let this product get frozen. So if you do, mail order or something like that, you really want to make sure that the dates want to come in that you, in the wintertime, receive it. And also, if you live in Arizona or something crazy like that, that doesn't sit out on your patio. I think actually Sarah's told me about that. Like, he had resin boil in his garage, and he couldn't figure out what was wrong with it, and he brought it to the place, and he said, "Did you somehow boil this?" And they actually knew what it meant to, like, I guess they actually test this stuff. Like, what happens if you boil it? What happens if you freeze it? What happens if you do that? But they knew exactly right off the bat that it was boiled.
That's crazy.
Well, it's Arizona.
Yeah.
It was in the garage.
Yeah, I'm super good at going back there.
Yep. Well, I mean, I use 5 mostly. Again, the same kind of thing with the soft foams, which is the flex foam series. The rigid foam also has its own line of different grades of foam. I can't exactly say what does what. I think it gets harder as it gets higher, but I've only ever used 5 because it worked and I saw no reason to change it. And, well, these are multiple colors too. Like she's saying the 4, it comes actually pre-colored black. I tried using it, it didn't work. I would have really matched my black ones on cap. But that's what's actually inside of the really pointy saber horn spear that went around. It's up here. It's back. Is the rigid foam 5. It's the same thing as resin. It's a 2-part product which you mix together, and I usually like mixing it in 1 cup and then pouring it into another cup and double mixing it just in case something about anything that expands. It really kind of needs that second cup to mix into just to make sure you have a real thorough mix. You don't have like the 8-part kind of sticking little residues of it at the bottom, and then you pour it in there, and that's actually on the top of your mold, and it causes these craters and other problems, other curing issues, stickiness inside of your actual casting. You don't want that.
I think the mechanical mixing it makes it so much more reliable.
I think we're back to you're doing.
Huh?
I think we're back to you're
Well,
doing.
we're not even doing very big batches, but just the mechanical mixing introduces more area to it. We made ourselves a little wire whisk and put it in the drill. And yeah, no,
Is that like versions of Sharp's toilet cleaning brush?
well, I haven't seen Sharp's toilet cleaning brush, but
You stuck it in a drill.
similar. He MacGyvered it super well, and it made it way easier to use. So that's the thing. Mechanical. It says in the product sheet that mechanical mixing is better.
I don't think we do like a lot of times with our horns stuff they use so little rigid foam.
Yeah. Well, even the flexible foams. Any of the foams, it says that the mechanical mix it is a
But then it gets dirty.
But if you're just making little wire ones, just throw them in the trash.
But you have to make the wire ones. Just use a giant paintbrush and just wipe it off.
Make small batches of resin at work. I've actually used a cappuccino froth.
Yeah, they do some jokes for rigid foam. You can dye that too, of course. If there's anything polyurethane, you can put dyes into it. I didn't even talk about all the cool shiny things that Silicone has.
We have so many things.
I
Just go to
know.
Silicone, you guys.
Please. They have so many goodies there. Like glow in the dark stuff, UV reactive stuff, quarry tone, real stone effects. My skull jaw that went around, which I forgot to point that out.
Cast magic metal powder.
Yes, metal powders, shimmers, glitters. You tore that hot glue up.
I was playing with it, I'm sorry.
But yeah, lots of really cool effects that you can apply to your casting. It's really cool. I'm backtracking there on that one.
We've been doing that so long.
Yes. Yes. We're trying. I have a list.
I'm using her list.
There, it's in the middle. There. Okay. Rubbers. Using rubbers.
The one that I use the most is the Ulu.
I also been doing the dragon skin pen is fun for the tongs because it's nice and soft and
So
good.
that's silicone.
Yeah, it's so fun. Trixie.
Yeah. That's another one I forgot to go over. Silicone. Dragon skin.
Dragon skin's great.
Yeah, dragon skin. Wait. Did we skip over silicone and just go to foam? Is that what happened?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was exactly what happened.
Okay. Silicone. Like, wait a minute. Got the sheets here, it means I didn't talk about it. But yes, sorry about that. We're a little scatterbrained this morning. Silicones. Many different kinds of silicones. Of course, we're going to talk mostly about the ones you can actually color. Because at this point, we're at the casting off the molding stage.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with you actually using the molding type silicones with actually making that for your final product. It's just that they usually come kind of pre-colored, just so it's easier. I guess it's easier to mix and stuff, because usually the A part and B part are different colors. So, like with the Moldstar series, their A part's white and their B part is blue or it's green. So when you mix it together, you have a pastel, so you know you mixed it well. With the Dragon Skin series and the Sort of Clear, those ones actually, A part, B part, look exactly the same.
I've made that mistake.
Yeah, mark your cups. This is A part, this is B part.
Yeah.
Because if you, of course, mix two B parts together, it's not going to do anything but sit there be sticky.
It's gonna sit in your mouth and make you feel really stupid.
Because then afterwards, you gotta pour it out, and then you don't know what part it was, and
And you gotta
it's
hope,
wasted. And you gotta clean the mold out really good.
and hope it doesn't get into the micropores and you have your next cast curate so that it turns
Oh.
into silicone and it makes you want to cry super hard.
Yeah, that too.
4 days before the convention.
Double check.
I know.
Double check everything.
Oh, and then check it again.
And then still make mistakes. It's gonna happen. You're gonna have your derp days.
Yeah.
Mondays and Tuesdays, derp days.
Oh.
Anywhere 5 days before con, derp days. And so yeah, I mean, Dragon Skin also comes with a whole bunch of different toughness, I used to say. They go anywhere from, they got EcoFlex too. EcoFlex is also clear. And like I said, did I pass that signal? I don't think I passed
Yes,
that.
you did.
I did I?
Yeah, the silicone type one.
Okay, I just didn't pass out rubber. I'll hold on to rubber.
We'll get there.
We'll get there.
We'll get there.
But I mean, you're gonna sit there. The only reason I didn't have a silicone in the bag is because it will attract dust and dirt. And... Seriously? I'm serious. Where did the hour go? No, I thought it was supposed to be midnight.
Does it? I thought it was 11:30. Does it go to midnight now?
Anybody know?
It goes back to midnight.
Minute.
They fixed it. Okay.
Okay.
It was originally supposed to be another 15 minutes. I'm wrong.
Don't freak me out. But it's like setup day. Like setup on Friday. I thought I only had it like 15 minutes left, and it was really an hour.
Not until midnight.
Okay. We'll try not to keep it on entirely. Really, we'll try not to.
We're gonna.
Try not to. EcoFlex is another series. I actually don't use it personally because it is a very soft silicone. A lot of people are using it for prosthetics and making silicone masks. That's also should be in the pile of chains, I believe. Yeah. Usually, when you're wanting to make things like noses, tongues, you want to use a softer silicone. I like using Dragon Skin 10 for that. But for things that are going to be more rough and tough and tumble, like on your feet, like your shoes, you want to have a stronger silicone because it will possibly rip and tear and actually remove itself from fabric. You've got to make sure that if you're doing anything like attaching silicone to something else, it's got to have a backing to it, because otherwise, unless you have silicone glue, you're not going to be able to find anything that's going to bond silicone to your suit.
Ooh, yes. Ooh is super good though. I use Ooh to glue anything like that. But anything that's silicone, it bonds to. It bonds to Dragon Skin, it bonds to the tissue.
So you're using silicone to bond silicone to something.
Well, usually I use it to bond to a fabric and then I sew it.
Okay, well, you can do that,
The silicone glue is
But you-
better, but it's you can use the
but you can just put fabric on it while still.
Yeah, that's my preferred method of doing it.
Okay. Yes.
In a pinch.
I thought you saying like.
In a pinch.
I thought you were saying like the glue can, like you can actually take hot glue, stick the glue silicone on something.
Yeah, I don't use hot glue.
Show your dooms.
At least it won't burn me.
That happened today. Stop. Anyways, no matter what silicone it is, it needs something to be attached to in order to attach that to something else.
My favorite way to bond a piece of fabric to silicone while it's curing is take some of the wet mix, rub it into the fabric, and then set it into the silicone. That way you know that the silicone is bonded into the fabric and not just trying to push the fabric into your cast piece.
Or that's or the situation we usually have where it soaks through and then nothing will stick to the back. Yeah, it's a timed thing. We actually put our molds on a heating pad to help kind of kickstart the process of the silicone curing. So we have a time, it's like 10 to 15 minutes or like that, put the backing on. And it's like the perfect amount of time where it soaks nice and into the fabric, but it doesn't soak through the fabric. By the way, the process of finding fabric that will not rip, tear, and will bond to your silicone and not seep through your silicone won't seep through it is daunting. So I will save you that process right now. Denim. Thick upholstery denim will work really, really well with a backing for your silicone if you want your paw pads, tongues, or anything like that. Have something that they're attached to, and then you can take that and attach it to something else, whether it be glue or sewn down. That took like 4 years. No. I technically started in 2010 materials. So 6 years. 6 years of searching. And finding fabrics at Hancock's and then no longer having it anymore and then having to search again. We admit to our faults.
That feel when they discontinued.
Yes, I still have a sample of that original fabric.
One day.
Oh, I don't need it anymore, I found out. And that comes in colors. And I can dye that. Okay. Well, I mean, still goes kind of the same thing with like the plastic, really. You can dye any color, being that the fact it's already clear, it's super easy to match colors. Because it doesn't turn any other color, but that. Again, with the EcoFlex, the Dragon Skin, and the Sorta Clear, each one's got its own kind of purpose, depending on your project. I didn't really go with the Sorta Clear, but I actually like using that to make molds, because its main property is to pour that around an item, and then you take a knife and cut into the mold to release it. And you have to be able to see where your blade goes so you don't damage your model. So that's its original intention. It's actually a very, very solid silicone. Wish I had a sample of it, but think about that.
Do you like the 40? Or do you like the soft?
What, Dragon Skin?
Or circle?
I think it's the 37 that I use.
The 1A1B?
Yes.
Okay.
Because that was easy. And it's not 10 by 100 parts.
An
I'm lazy.
accurate gram scale is your best friend or stuff like that.
Yes, I have that too, but I hate using it.
Yeah, it is kind of a pain.
I'll use it with the materials I have to use it on, like crystal clear and stuff. Because that's also the 90 by 100 parts thing. You have to have a gram scale for that. Just can't guess on that. Unless you're really good at calculus. I'm not. So other stuff. I'm gonna jump back onto rubber, I guess. Okay. Hey, rubber! It's very short. It's not gonna take long. Rubber! Yeah, the rubber stuff I only use for a couple different things, because I don't think people, it's not latex based rubber.
Yeah.
It's again, urethane. It's again urethane. Rubber actually bonds with plastic, so you want to make sure you do have I don't use plastic molds. I use silicone molds with my rubber products, and I don't want to take that chance. It's really cool because people can actually make coasters. That sounds smooth on. They actually make these cool, like comic book clear coasters, and they got rubber on the bottom of them so they don't go anywhere, but they're hard on top. Because they're both the same kind of chemical base of just different end products, essentially. I like using rubber for some of my feet because there's people that like to go outdoors more, so with their shoes I want to make sure that I found something that's going to be rugged like your shoes are. And that's when I did my experimentation with different kinds of rubbers. That was a very long process. I really wanted to find rubber that actually was semi-clear so I could dye it better. A lot of my customers like doing extreme colors, not just black. So I ended up finding a series called Vitaflex, and it's another one of those ones that have like about 4 or 5 different essential like thickness, toughness. So the lower the number, the more flexible your rubber is going to be. The higher the number, the more durable, and at least it's going to move. Like you get to the point where the rubber is so tough that you can't even bend it. It actually starts sounding like plastic when you hit it on the table. With those ones, it's also one of those cases where I'm the only one that does rubber. It's another one of those products that you have to be really, really careful with and make sure you do not inhale the fumes. And it also has to sit overnight to cure. It also has to be post-cured with a mold in the oven before you cast into it, and also once the product is finished, it also has to sit into the mold. It's sit in the oven for another 5 hours for it to get its complete strength. And if you can skip the whole process of the oven. However, your product, when it's pulled out of the mold, will actually get this, smooth on is a technical term for it, but of course I'm going to use the non-technical term, which is it will not keep its shape. Silicone does the same thing. If you were to take a flat type mold and let it sit over the table, over time it will start to bend and sag and not keep its shape. The post-curing of the material, sticking in the oven for the extra 5 hours, will actually make the rubber go another level of kicking and will keep it solid. It will keep its shape that you essentially made it to be. And it will not damage as easily as well. So it'll last just as long as your shoe treads will essentially last. And another type of rubber that I passed around is one that she wants to play around with. It's called Duracoat. It's something that just came out like 2 months ago with, and it's a wonderful product, not only for the fursuit community, but also for cosplay, where you mix the two parts together, and you're going to need a gram scale. It's one of those unusual measurements, but you can brush it on by layers. It's almost clear. It's like an amber clear color, so it takes pigments really well. It takes specialty additives like the shimmer glitters, metals, glow-in-the-dark powders, and you can either brush it on and let it just drip down on your model. You don't even have to have a mold for this. You can literally like carve something out of the exercise mat material, or even a polyfoam like the cushion foam. It's kind of like a really improved cousin of tool dip. I know a lot of people like using tool dip. But I would prefer to actually rotocast it in my molds and then back layer it with, which is on the back of that is Flex Foam 14. So not only do I have a rugged item, but also something that's somewhat squishy. And you can choose to have a really thin layer on it, just a single layer, just to give it kind of a coating, or you can do kind of multiple layers to give it kind of a tough, thick skin. Yep.
Super cool.
But rubber's another one of those things that it really helps have a backing to it as well. You can use like shoe glue and stuff like that, especially designed for the rubber. They actually have a special, I guess, rubber glue that they sell at Smooth On, but just having it backing on, just kind of skip the whole step altogether. Okay. Ooh, the fun stuff. Yay, the fun stuff.
Now we're gonna get into the assembly and not the fabrication.
Yes, the actual building of suits out of crazy materials. Foam types. They're not pretty casting, by the way.
Yeah.
Everybody's familiar with old-fashioned cushion foam that you get the craft stores, whether it be, Joanne fabric, some kind of mom and pop stuff, or, well, Joanne's got a weird green foam.
Yeah.
That's a cheap foam.
That stuff's fun. The stuff that's a little bit better than that to use, especially if you want to stay cool, is reticulated foam, which is also known as dry fast foam.
Yes.
Known as speaker foam.
Dry fast, easy dry foam, stuff you use in your fish filter. I mean, I got some samples of that.
Yes.
I think.
Oh, I have a big sheet. I look
Sorry, it's in with the fur. It's part of the fabric section of the tutorial.
And it's super good because it's breathable and it's easy to wash and it's not going to mold on you. And
Yes.
It's lightweight.
White stuff was designed for reuse and it is antibacterial from the factory.
Yes. All the good stuff that you want to have an anti-to, I guess, in your suit.
Yeah.
But just like any foam, over time it will start to deteriorate, essentially kind of dry and crumble. Just like, if you had cushion foam for like 10 years, eventually it just kind of turns into this weird dry stuff. But that's going to take even longer for that. If your suit lasts that long, awesome. But usually by then you do upgrades and so on and so forth to the construction of your suit. Wow, foam section was so short.
Yeah, well, even foam.
Yeah, well, I actually have a cool Ava foam. I've got the cheap crap over there. Puzzle mats. Another type of foam people like to use when they're first making. It actually works really well for any extreme head builds that you're not going to actually have over top of your face, but above your head with the extended necks. Works really good for doing a kind of big skeleton. Keeps it very lightweight, but gives you structure. I actually used that for my Godzilla suit, and it was fantastic. I was still able to actually get a hinged jaw with that foam because of its structure integrity. And of course, you know, you can carve it out with the box cutter, or Dremel tool it, you can detail it.
You can heat form it.
Heat form it too. A lot of the little closed cell foams will actually be reactive to heat, so I like using a heat gun, but some people like to use their tops of their oven. It works, you just have to be really careful.
It does work.
Yes, it works.
It's still super scary.
It's just easier just to spend $15 on a heat gun and have more control.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a lot of people who do armor building, foam armor building in the cosplay world like to use the puzzle mat Ava foam. It's also called L200, and I've also heard it called by a couple other different names. You can buy it in giant rolls. Huh?
EVA foam, it's actually cheaper to get an exercise mat. You don't find the texture on the side.
Yes, but the L200 comes non-textured as well. And you can get it in a whole bunch of different thicknesses and it comes white.
You can also, you probably know what it's foamies. It comes in thin little layers, and it's marketed as foamies as well.
Awesome. Heat gun! Awesome little tool.
Super good.
They don't last nearly as long as the older models did.
I think it's a Black & Decker one that's really nice. It's got a really adjustable knob. I've had it for over a year.
I thought it was cool.
Scary.
Yeah. I have blue ones do that too, by the way. Lightning bolts. Damn it! Dang, it's so weird that the artist doesn't get hot glue at least so big. I just don't understand. It's just not right. I know. I keep forgetting. It's weird. I really don't know how to read this. Yeah. Okay. Fabrics. I did not bring those many fabrics that one brand. In fact, you know what? My horsehair is on the NFT too.
I didn't even bring any horsehair, but I don't know the others.
In the way. Everything was in that bag. I'm keeping my fancy things separate.
I've got some fancy.
I have one piece of fancy.
I've got some pretty legitimately fancy things.
Well, then I have two pieces of fancy. I have a giant tail that I'm passing that around. It's Ciara wants her tail in one piece. We're going to go jump into NFT and then go.
NFT is super great.
Okay.
NFT stands for Natural Fiber Technologies. They construct stuff. If you've seen Chewbacca, you've seen NFT fur. It's stretch fur. It's usually 4-way stretch. You can get it in pile lengths from, they can make it like half an inch to over 12 inches long. They can custom make it in whatever color and texture you want as long as you have a lot of money to throw at them. I think the minimum order is 8 feet and the setup is like $400 or something like that. For 8 square feet?
Yeah, square feet.
Yeah, square feet, not yards.
Square feet.
Square feet. And it's super good.
Great for accents.
Yeah, Kieran has it in his groin and his armpits, and he has full range of motion. Well, those are the places where you usually have to have it baggy so that you can actually raise your arm.
And airflow.
Yes.
It breathes.
It's super good.
Yes.
I've got it on mine for accents on the elbows and the hop padding and along my main hop.
That's why I did for Flurry version 2. Yeah. 1, 2.
It's got a little bit of a different texture though. They're using Kankleon fibers for a lot of it. Sometimes they use natural fibers like yak or goat, but it's not quite as soft as regular fur. It feels a little bit more like wave fibers.
Yeah. Is it called that? Like I thought I was ask?
Canacolon. I call it, I say it like quesadilla. I'm always wrong. It's okay. Just let it happen.
Okay. But they have many base, essentially like fiber textures that they use. That weird name that she said.
Canacolon, I think is how it's
Yeah.
supposed to be pronounced. But
Yeah, that's the one that comes, I guess, comes in more colors, I guess.
Yeah.
You should say. I got like the synthetic yak, and then they've got like goat and other type of fibers.
mohair.
Yeah, mohair. Most of those are synthetic. I want to say they actually have I want to say they have a real goat and a real yak, which can be dyed.
And that's a really thick texture.
Yeah, that's very thick.
But it's neat.
Yeah.
It's really neat.
Always check out their clearance section. And also, it's really nice because they'll actually go through, hunt through their stock, and if you need a sample of something, you'll send an email in and say, hey, I'm looking for like this blue fur, I'm looking for something that's around this type of length to it, do you have anything? And they'll send you actually a couple different samples of their stock of blues from either custom orders that people did, there's just extra on hand, or they just happen to have a stock inside in their warehouse that they don't have online. And they're really super helpful. Like, I can tell you, I've been having a hard time just trying to find that blue and orange fabric for her tail, and they were really, really nice that send me like at least 7 samples of different kinds of oranges. And each one, they can go from like a super soft, silky fur to a more coarse type, horsehair, essentially. Horsehair kind of imitation, I should say, which works really, really good for standing up mohawks. So the thicker the fur, the better it is for standing up, the softer, of course. I think I can't really think other than Papillon soft fur. The dogs. Yeah, and more, I should say. I really wish I had my bag of samples. I had all these different kinds in here that just collected over the years, essentially. And, they have from like they actually call it like sparse werewolf. It's really cool because it's a 4-way stretch knitting back into it, and it almost looks like flesh. And it just has kind of hair poking up, old school werewolf. And,
Like a
mangy thing, yeah.
Rar.
It's really, really, really neat. So, you see, we have no good things to say for except for, it costs money.
Yeah. But it's worth it.
Yeah.
Wefting is a nightmare. Time is money. I'd rather pay for NFT than spend hours wefting something.
Yeah.
Again.
It does shed, by the way. So if you are grooming it, make sure you're using like
A wig brush is the best.
wig brush. Conditioner helps too. If you use wig conditioner on it. So if you get lots of tangles, for armpit areas or so, anywhere that's got lots of friction, you can actually use conditioning wig spray on it to kind of revitalize it again and groom it out. You can also use, if you see, what's that weird name she said?
Canacolon?
Yeah. Their base essentially, NFT that they sell, they have a lot of different colors. It actually essentially is wig fiber, which is better quality. You can use wig dyes to actually dye the fibers too, if you want to get unique colors. I do that for purple hair on a sugar glider. That was definitely. Yes.
I got some other natural fibers. For whiskers, I like to use porcupine bark hair and or boar bristles because they behave like whiskers. They've got the tapered tip, and they're super great. I'm just gonna tap these two like pan them around because I don't know there's much else to say about them except that they exist.
I completely forgot to bring my Flurry bodysuit in here for you. Don't you really know examples? Oops.
You can also use things like Kieran's whiskers because I wanted him to have salt and pepper ones. He's got boar bristles for the black ones and custom bleached and toned warthog bristles to get them white. Because they come basically the color of the table here, kind of a sandy tan. I wanted them white, so I did the thing.
Oh, actually, before I discovered NFT, I used to actually use mainly harvested horsehair a lot for doing accents in my costumes, especially doing mohawks. And they really need this to stick up, but their hair is very thick. I actually find that their mane hair is much thicker than their tail hair. So if you want to go for something that's more long, of course, tailor can get longer. Well, you can get long hair for both, actually.
Yeah.
But of course, the longer the hair, the more it's going to cost. You can let the hair grow out on the porch before they harvest. Humanely. But with those, if you actually get a lot of degrees in color, they can get, I think, actually a white. So there's one place I used to get from, they got like literally almost a white color. And then, of course, being that it's natural fibers, you can dye that too. So I always like using it also for accents for whiskers and the little whiskers on the top of the brows, those kind of things. People wasn't using it for actually wefting it. It's a very long process.
I hate wefting. Wefting is the worst thing.
Looks good. It takes a really long time.
So the way most people do wefts is they lay down a strip of hot glue and then they press the hair fibers into the hot glue. So it's entrapped within the glue, and then you can attach that strip into wherever you're going to, wherever you're going to put it. Some people do it around the tail or in strips for a mane. I don't use hot glue, so the way I did it was a nightmare, and I'm not even going to tell you because I don't want you to try because it's a nightmare. I'm never ever going to suggest doing that because it was a bad idea. I used E6000 in ribbon and basically tried to do the same thing, and I instantly, like, I put it in and then I bought NFT like right after I was done. This was such a waste of my time.
But it would have worked.
It did work, but it looked like crap, and I would have wished I wasted so much time that I spent more time doing that than I would have spent just buying the NFT.
I use fabric chopping. We wrap.
I use NFT. I hate wefting. I hate wefting.
Mine actually made it onto a suit.
I made it onto a suit too, and like I took photos with it. I'm like, this looks horrible. Why didn't I buy NFT?
I didn't know about it.
Oh, well, he had some crazy like neon red color, and I didn't want to have that much NFT just kind of hanging out for one little strip. And so now I have a bunch of neon red NFT that I don't have any idea what I'm ever going to use it for because I don't look for natural colors anymore.
Put on the forum and sell to the person community. I'm sure somebody will love that.
Yeah, but it's in the hoard. I have over 200 euros.
But you don't need it.
But it's in the hoard.
But you don't need it.
But I might need it someday.
It doesn't matter.
But I might need it someday, and then I won't have it, and then I'll be mad.
And then you're into a situation where you have no room in all this fabric.
You mean my life? No.
I saw your wall.
Oh, my wall. Yeah.
It was on Skype. I saw it.
On Skype. Yeah.
You're battling with Skype pro fursuits right now. I'm telling you that. Yeah. See, I didn't even see what it was. She knew what it was. It's even labeled on the black.
Oh, yes it is.
Look at that.
Puppet fleece. That's what they used to use for the Muppets. It shaves down really well, and you can hide seams in it. The seam you want to use is a stitch that's called a Henson stitch. You can find tutorials for it on YouTube. It's a way to basically just hide the seam a little bit better in the fleece. Help the stitch.
Careful.
No, no.
Oh, got over. I'm trying to keep it contained, I swear.
Okay, I got it. And the other kind of fleece, which is super awesome, I'm just going to give you the box, is
Sure, you're trusting me.
it's just a sample box.
Oh, okay.
It's Polar Tech fleece. Polar Tech fleece comes in all kinds of colors, a couple different thicknesses. It's very dense. You don't see the backing very easily. There's a couple kinds that are stretch fleece, as in like NFT, where it's four-way stretch. And you can use it for, let's see, what did I use it for last? I did some to do on the inside of the liner of the ear, so that I can make it contour to all of the curves and the little folds, so I can make it look really realistic. And I really, really, really like Polar Tech fleece. This is Polar Tech fleece.
Yeah, that was very nice and warm. Thank you for letting me borrow.
Polar Tech is awesome.
It's breathing out.
And you can get, yes?
I wanted to ask you about the NFT first. You mentioned that you can only order it in like really big quantities.
You can only custom order it in really big quantities. Sir, I'm going to have to ask you to calm down.
Good luck with that.
So if you can think like for accents or for hair, order smaller quantities.
You can order it in square foot increments.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, a square, like 8 square feet is really not that big of a space. Okay.
Yeah, their clearance section is pretty well.
What she's saying, like, you need to have like a minimal amount that's usually for custom,
Yeah,
Yes.
it's for the customer.
which is very expensive.
But they have a lot of stuff in their clearance section. They do a lot of stuff for a lot of different.
Actually, have it categorized.
They also have stock furs.
Yeah, they do, but
Their stock furs are like realistic lion. I know they have a lot of white, they have a lot of blacks, they have a lot of natural browns, golds. Not really anything crazy color. Crazy colors rooms from the clearance because that's stuff that people special order and it's just an extra on hand. But they have to do like when they actually do a custom order, they have to do like a test line to make sure that the process goes through properly, and they end up having a lot of extra than what the customer actually purchased in the first place. So all their exotic colors they'll have in clearance. They will always have areas on the website. That's why I said it's really, really good to send them an email if you're looking for a special color, or even send them a reference. You send them a link reference, and it helps out a lot. And they'll do their best to send you a whole lot of the samples that you can play with. Because some of their backings are non-stretch, they're just like 2-way, and some of them are 4-way stretch. Like I said, all the fibers have a little bit of a different texture to them, a different look. So it just really helps to have that physical thing in your hand.
yeah.
Especially if you're spending that much money on something, you want to make sure you get what you want and don't spend money and then have to sit there. Unless you're her and find something to do with it later.
One more thing. Don't call them unless you're serious.
Yes, that too. Of course, I'm going to be serious though.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm a reaction to jokes with them. I don't think they'd appreciate that too much. I did. Yay! Oh. Just since that's French fabric.
It's really nice though.
Oh, my tumbleweed is 80% just
Nice.
fluff everywhere. But Tisable, yes. I don't know when you first discovered it, but I first discovered it at the LA Fashion District.
I actually got really lucky and found a roll of it in like the clearance section in Pacific Fabrics in Seattle. And I paid like $24 per yard for it. I have no idea why they had a price like that. This is imported.
They didn't know what it was.
They didn't, and I ordered that. I still have some of that. Some of that's going on Tiberius actually. It's got a different kind of backing than any of the rest of the furs. It's a French fashion fur. I think they actually closed down that factory, and what's left is starting to get really expensive because they don't do that anymore. I'm pretty sure. Like that was like a big thing.
Like, dude, it was expensive 2 years ago.
Yeah, because it was starting to get scarce already then. There are other companies that are coming in to fill up the gap, but it's not like this.
Yeah. But anyways, yes. As far as I've seen, there's been like 5 or 6 different kinds of coloration varieties to them. It's really, I mean, you got created a green one, but
Yeah.
they're natural. They're absolutely beautiful because they have that really nice kind of light colored undercoat to them and those beautiful dark guard ears to them.
The thing about Tissable that's special to know is that it's got a woven backing, not a knit backing. The way that you sew it is very different than what you would sew a regular woven backing fur. They can unravel, like a regular fur doesn't unravel.
It's kind of like yarn.
Yeah. So there's a couple different ways you can work with it. You can back it with fleece and sew with fleece, or you can use a better locking stitch or a wider seam allowance.
Zigzag stitch with a straight stitch near it. That's just so you're not like essentially, if you do a stitch that's too close together, you'll actually kind of cut through the backing of the fabric. But I mean, we could just use like a wider and zigzag stitch on tumbleweed. It's held up really well.
I hand sew everything, so I'm crazy.
Well, I think she hand sewed it. And I was like, oh gosh, she hand sewed this whole suit. Man, I kind of have miscellaneous furs here, like fox and Arctic and
Zogati. Gosh, I can look at these and know what they are.
You're fur nerd.
Oh, I am a fur nerd.
Fur nerd. Yeah, these are just different kinds of like, thank you. Just long pile of furs. There's really nice, realistic textures to them. I found that there's usually like 2 different kinds of quality of long fur. Holy crap, Rekka, come on. there's usually different kinds of, I guess just take texture to the long fiber furs that you buy. You can get like a really super soft, silky, wispy, and then you can get a really realistic, coarse, like you're petting a husky type. I call them guard hairs. There'll be this little kind of layer, shiny hints inside of the fur that really helps bring out the I could just say the color, just say for your suit. Because if it's really super silky, it's more flat.
It gives some depth to it.
Yeah,
The different texture gives it an added layer of depth.
But I mean, most of the other furs, I mean, are pretty basic. You know, you get your distinctive fabric, really silky, toothy furs, and stuff like that. Luxury shed, monkey, Mongolian gorilla. Just, yeah. We don't like using those, obviously.
Fun fur. Don't use fun fur.
No.
Don't use fun fur.
Or it's called craft fur. It's called craft fur. Should we just go over, I guess, more exotic stuff? I know a bunch of vinyls and. Oh yeah, no love for my Mickey. Mickey. It's still kind of Mickey's more of like an easy to come by basic fabric. It's just trying to find a place where it has a lot of colors, and you can get samples, and you don't have to be a company because not everybody's a company. But I actually found Minky Delight, which is glorious because you can get a whole sample of all of their smooth fabrics for 12 bucks. Yeah, 12 bucks. 12 bucks for, I think it was 8 or 10 of these. And each one was essentially divided these little pouches here of the select colors section that they had. Like this is purplish, red, and then that one over there is purple, it's going blue, green. But it gives you, especially if you're a plushie maker, this is a great resource to have on hand if you're doing custom plushies, because you can look straight at the color and reference and get them correct right away and say, I'm doing this, this, and this for your character, and you're like, awesome, and then you start working. But yeah, I find that's really starting to pop up more as a replacement for fleece on a lot of fursuits, because fleece over time, I'm not sure about it. Even this will start to pill up a little bit. It'll start out really super smooth, and then just from washing and just rough and tough, it'll start pilling and stretching and get a little bit out of shape. With the Minky, it actually has that really nice thick backing to it, so it will not lose its shape, and it'll stay nice and shiny. The only, I guess, little deterrent from it is the fact that it will show lines, and you can do your best to kind of like pick them out with a really nice, I like to use carbon needles. They have like these rounded points on them just to help kind of guide the fibers out from the seams and help hide the seams better before I do my final heavy stitch. But it will have a silky side, and it does have a direction, just like Flurry does. So you gotta make sure that you have the direction of the fiber going the same for all your pieces you sew together. Otherwise it's gonna look really weird. And someone's gonna brush it and be like, why does that sound like that color? I thought it was that color. Because fibers go in that direction. Okay. We might have to start skipping around a little bit, and we're doing very selective stuff. Like I'll throw some really interesting stuff out there for people to look at, but it's basically different kinds of upholstery. And we got 10 minutes. We got 10 minutes. Yeah, we got to really start moving this around. More unique type fabrics would be vinyls and different kinds of spandex mixes. And I have kind of a little sheet here with different kinds of things that I've used on previous costumes we're going to be using. Most of them are doing like reptilian type creatures. Oh, forgot what laws around her, man. Laws around her. Most of these are actually local finds I've found in the upholstery section, meaning that they will actually have a texture to them, like an embossed texture, and feel like scales. And again, we'll sew through the machine just fine. I also found a really neat fabric that has sequins on it that looks like dragon scales. Actually, I heard a lot of people try to use it for mermaid tails, but it's built on spandex. It's like sequins built on spandex, and they actually have two sides of the sequins. So it's one color on one side, you can brush it the other way, it's another color. It's really super cool, the peacock color. It's like green, blue, purple. It's like, but I haven't used for it, so I didn't buy it. Okay, we're going to jump into thermoplastics.
think the rest of them, I think we should get Thermoplastics the rest of them.
Yeah. Everything else.
The only other thing I want to hit that's not on there is for doing hinges for the pivot point. My favorite thing in the world is they're called Chicago screws or lining posts. And basically, it's like a screw, but it's got an inside to it, and this one goes inside of it. And you can get them in different lengths and different sizes. You can get them in metal. Ace Hardware sells them in metal. So it's stuck. No, you can pull that down. These ones actually just press right in. The metal ones screw in, but these ones, I like it. They're not screwed but they do come back out.
10 minutes.
Okay.
So, binding posts, super cool. It makes it so that you can change your hinges and not have to use metal screws. I'm allergic to a lot of metals. The plastic ones are super great. I'm allergic to everything.
Why stop it?
One tool that I think is really fun to use, they're called pinning shears. Basically, it's a pair of scissors with a bunch of grooves in it, so it only cuts some of the fibers, and that allows you to feather your cuts. So instead of cutting along the fur and having your really straight vertical line that's really sharp, you can cut and move around a little bit, so it's a more blended transition. It's good for blending lengths of fur together, for doing the details on the inside of the ears and whatnot. Super cool. I've been thinking that's when somebody raising their hand all the time. Driving me crazy.
Well, what he just handed out there was actually, it's a whole bunch of different series of thermoplastics that you can use either a heat gun to shape it, or you can use a vacuum form table after completely melting the plastic essentially to the point where it starts to bow, and putting it over top of the table, holes in it, and using a vacuum to suck out all the air and form it around a model. I can't tell you that I can give you too much description on that because I just started like picking at that type of medium, but from what I have tested on and failed and succeeded and failed on, it's a couple different materials that being passed around. The one is Wonderflex. It's one of the very first thermoplastics I started playing around with when I was a kid, and it's actually something that's got fabric laid inside of plastic. And you can use a heat gun to, or even hot water, I believe, like boiling water, to shape it around an item, and it will retain that shape and be flexible. It also gives itself kind of a sticky gluiness to it, so it will bond to more pieces, and you keep layering on top of each other. It's a very nice starter kind of material. Another one my second one that I started learning on was Thermoplastics, which is a ABS type style plastic. And they usually call it like foam core board or something, I don't know why. But it's kind of almost, you can kind of squish it to a tiny, tiny, tiny bit, but it's a really nice thermoplastic that's got a very clean surface to it, and I liked using it for doing props of weapons, and I used to use it to actually build my head frames for my heads, like, back in 2008 or so. It worked great. Some of my heads are still running around now, and it just shows how well that material holds up over time. And one of the other ones is the 1/16 ABS plastic, which has a textured side and it has a shiny side. And a lot of people like using that for eyes. Can't think of it. Really, I guess head forming. Like this, My Little Pony head up here I actually got from, was that Antoine Medier? I think is how you pronounce it. I don't know. International person. That's actually a two-part vacuum formed head. I believe they actually use was it the styrene plastic, which is a two-part shiny material. Again, it's like very similar to ABS plastic, and it's very lightweight. So it works great for large heads like that to keep it nice and hollow and sturdy at the same time. The only thing with the styrene between styrene and ABS has more flex to it, but with the styrene, I'm not even sure if I'm saying that right. The styrene, something like that. If you were to cut that, you have to be careful because you risk a chance of actually splitting the plastic, because it can be like gripped essentially. So you gotta kind of pick and choose your battles with what materials you want to be able to use. The tiny little beads, another fun little plastic to play around with, safe for kids and stuff. You just literally put it in some boiling water, and it starts to liquefy and turn clear. And you can pull it out, like Putty, and just start shaping it into whatever shape you want. Oh, flash shape. Flash shape is so cool. It's completely different from all the other things. That stuff, yes. It's plaster on that stuff.
It is essentially a fabric that's been impregnated with thermoplastic. And you can hit it with a heat gun, or you can hit it with a hair dryer, or the best thing to use is steam. And you heat up the thermoplastic, and it shrinks down a little bit, and basically solidifies around whatever you're molding it around. I sculpt things and cover them in tinfoil and pin the stuff to it, and then hit it. And it makes it really pretty easy to fabricate things. I use it for my ears, especially. And it stays flexible, it's very durable. I mean, it is bendable, and it pops back right in shape. Show them your one. I'll show you one. Oh my God. Show them how bendy and flexy and great it is.
Wrong.
And it pops right back into shape. There's never really any risk it's going to get it flat. You have to get it so hot to get it to actually melt into shape that you don't have to worry about leaving it in the car. It's super good. I love Fosh shape.
It comes in
Spell that? FOSSHAPE. It comes in two thicknesses. It's basically a 300 and a 600, and the only difference is one of them is twice as thick as the other. But they're super great.
Yeah.
They're super great.
I think I actually have, I don't remember what thickness I made each one of these. I think it's the same as that one out there. I've got both thicknesses at home.
Yeah, me too. It's just up on a shelf somewhere, like with 200 yards. Don't die. Don't die.
I'm not dying. Jeremy squishes because of that.
Airbrushing. Everybody knows airbrushing. You use an airbrush and a compressor. A lot of people use Createx paints to airbrush. I don't like Createx paints because they leave a lot of texture. It makes it kind of crunchy, and they do not really set. You have to heat set them. We all know how heat doesn't play well with fur. I have learned from Art Slave that golden fluid acrylic paints are pretty much the best thing in the world. They make an airbrush medium that you mix 50% and 50% paint in whatever color you want. And you don't have to heat set it. It's designed to bond to fabric without having to heat set. So, and it doesn't change the texture of the fur unless you put it on way too thick. As long as you're being reasonable and brushing it out and letting it dry between coats, you don't get a texture change. And that's the best thing in the world, because furs are supposed to be soft. I think that's about it.
Pretty much. I mean, there was like different kinds of glues and stuff like that, but most of it's kind of simple.
Yeah.
I mean,
Most of it's contact cement is great. Contact cement's really good for foams. I like it for foams, especially for doing body pod builds. You paint on each side and then hold it together for like a second, and then it's bonded, and it's great.
yeah, my version I'm using for that would be a super, was it already time? Nope, it is. Poop! Took too long.
I usually do longer than that.
It's too long.
It is not. I tried to say.
Say goodbye, Morty.
Yes. And say goodbye, sadly, that's fine. Too much stuff.
They're right there.